Obviously, she doesn't understand him. He's just making like, they sound like whale noises. I hope not like that. I don't know why I did that. I'm sorry. So y'all just be like hooking up and not touching gills? Hey, thank you for clicking on the video. Hey, thank you so much for clicking on this video. My name is Kaylee, and this is Read Rant Review, where, you guessed it, I read books and I do rant reviews. I do a beat by beat, chapter by chapter breakdown of a book that you guys voted for. This is Kitty Kitty, by the way, in case you were curious. So today's book is going to be Whispers of the Deep by Emma Hamm. Currently on Goodreads, it is sitting at a 4.0 with almost 14,000 ratings. It was written on January 7th, 2024. 381 pages, nothing too crazy. I'll read you guys the book description here in a second, give you a couple disclaimers and trigger warnings and whatnot, and then we'll dive right into it. I was feeling another monster romance last week, and so I put up the poll, and Whispers of the Deep won by an absolute landslide because it is a merman book. I had no idea that mermaid is a thing, so in case you are unaware of what mermaid was either, it is like an artist thing where they create a mermaid every day for the month of May. Pretty cool. So I guess to celebrate, we're going to go ahead and do a little merman smut book today. One of the many engineers that keeps Beta, the city under the sea, running, Mira only wants to make her family proud and prove herself worthy. Yep. That's the quality of writing that we're going to have for the entire book. She knows the mysterious city better than anyone, and it's her dream to help it flourish. But then, on a solo job in an abandoned section of the city, she encounters a monster of legend, an Undine, a dangerous merman from an ancient civilization long forgotten. Arges has fought his entire life for his people. With deadly creatures under his control, he plans to eradicate Beta once and for all to protect his kind and their peaceful way of life. But when a human woman saves him, she unknowingly creates a bond between them, one he can't ignore. Even though her flaming red hair haunts his dreams, he needs her for information on the Undine's enemies. So he steals her, keeps her, feeds her, only to realize their bond is far deeper than captor and captive. He cannot let her go, but he cannot keep her under the sea. In a battle to determine if love can survive a war beneath the waves, it will be their decision that changes the tides. Oh, I hate that. I don't know why that just made me like viscerally cringe so bad. Okay, let's see. So there's a foreword from the author. They don't have a trigger warning, so I'll look online and see if they have a website. But for the foreword for the book, thank you for reading this super exciting book that I am thrilled to have in your hands. First and foremost, disclaimer, 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 in all caps. I am not a scientist. I fully realize a lot of what is said in this book simply could not happen. Human bodies are not meant to be in the water for a long time, and they certainly are not made to withstand pressure changes easily. I say some things in here about an invention that allows our heroine to breathe underwater for a bit and avoid the bends. It's entirely made up and honestly probably impossible. Please suspend your disbelief for this monster fucker book. It's a book about fucking mermen. Let's not get into scientific conversation about whether the bends would happen or if she could die doing half the stuff she does. Okay? Okay. Smooches. Love the self-awareness. We're not going to pretend to be anything that we're not. We're just here for the vibes. You know what I mean? And I respect an author who says as much. So, content warnings. This is not on the, I can't find the author's website, but on romance.io. Content warnings have third-party abuse, past abuse, graphic violence, non-traditional happily ever after, animal death, body betrayal, and torture of main characters. Yeah, I think that covers it. It's really not that dark of a book. Like, objectively, I know I just said she gets kidnapped, okay? But objectively, like, in all actuality, it's really not that dark of a book. There was like one scene that made me a little uncomfy that I did not like at all. But everything else was pretty chill. Not gonna lie. Is the writing good? No, not really. But again, we're just here for the vibes. Beyond the content, just trigger warning thing. The two other disclaimers that I have on all of my videos is this will obviously contain all of the spoilers. I'm giving you a literal beat by beat, chapter by chapter breakdown. You know what you're getting into. And the final one is this review is not for the author. It's not for friends, fans, family, stans, anything of the like. I will be making fun of this book. We will be having a giggle. Was it a good time? Yes. in the goofiest, silliest, stupidest way possible. But did I have fun? Yes. Would I read it more from this author? Maybe. I don't know. I'm not very invested in this merman world. I'm not going to front with you. But I could see why people would be. So let's get into it and see how you like it. In chapter 1, we meet Mira. She is in her mid-20s. I want to say she's 26. She's an engineer for this city. And when we meet her, she is in the middle of welding this like really, really fancy ballroom. She's like welding one of the seams for the glass window things because some rich people want to have a party in there. So she's getting it together. Mira knew how to weld. She'd been doing this her entire life. It was her father's lifelong career before he'd drowned and left all his tools to her. And she'd gotten really good at it over the years. So to be clear, we're here again. I know I said it already. I said it like 2 minutes ago, but the writing is not great. I need to acknowledge it. And a lot of the passages that I'm going to pull out and read aloud to you are so funny because of the way that they are written. And it kills me so much. I don't know, man. Her quadrant, owned by the Beta Corporation. So it's like, there's like Alpha, Beta, some other name, and Tau, I think, is one of the other cities that's like underwater. Humanity had to move underwater and build these like, almost like little, I imagine it's like Sandy's house from SpongeBob, these like little air dome things, and they have these like whole cities underwater. Because of all of the volcanoes and crazy activity on the surface level, it was like uninhabitable to live above water. So then they had to go underwater, and then it's this like whole freaking thing. So yes, her quadrant, owned by the Beta Corporation, was mostly industrial, but there were rooms like this one that were intended to entertain. Mira would never be able to scrub the beauty of this room out of her mind. Even though it hadn't been used in her lifetime, it was still beautiful. Gold and white checkered floors, massive sculptures of muscular men holding at the ceiling on all four corners, and all this glass. It was a wonder it hadn't broken years ago. So she's in the middle of welding, and she looks up, and there is a merman thing staring at her, like face to face in the glass with her. Really, really freaky. They are known to cause trouble and are just generally assholes to the humans and stuff. And he is ginormous and scary. And so she looks at him, and she happens to glance over at this other part of the wall where there's this like giant crack in the glass, and he sees it. And so then he swims away. He goes up really, really high up, and then he dives right on down to the glass and starts like banging into the crack in the glass to try and break it. He does. She's able to escape, luckily, before the room floods with water. She gets into like the hallway, seals the door, looks in the window, and then he's in there like staring at her. Super freaky, super scary. In chapter 2, we go to Arges's point of view. Arges hated the acromos. That's the name for the humans that the undines have. So the undines are mermen, the acromos are humans, right? As they called the colorless ones who lived in the walled city. He'd been but a child when he had his first run-in with their kind. He'd been small enough to be stupid, finding time to stay in front of their windows so he might see them. Their bodies were so strange. Those ugly, two-finned monstrosities had once been intriguing to his young mind. But one of the times when he was kind of stalking around, the humans tried to attack him, so then his father intervened, and then the acromos, the humans, ended up killing his father. So now he has had this like deep-seated hatred for them, which is totally understandable. In addition to that, just in general, the humans, when they moved down there, they just started causing problems. They're stinky. All of the metal and stuff causes rust that gets into the ocean. And just in general, living next to humans aren't very good neighbors. And so he is working with his pod, his group of fellow mermen, and they are trying to sabotage the city. The particular mission that they're going on in chapter 2 is taking a bunch of rocks and attacking the tubes that deliver oxygen into the cities with the intent, clearly, to deprive all of the humans of oxygen and kill them all off. It's pretty creative, actually. So Arges is the leader of his pod. He is the lead guy. His brother, I can't remember his name. It starts with a D. He is D for douche. He's a horrible dude. He's a very just angry guy. He's not a fan of Arges in the way that Arges is handling this, because he's like, hey, we should have attacked these humans years ago. We should have done all this stuff, and you're just slacking. You're taking time and ba 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 ba. And Arges is like, no, we have to be smart about this. There's a reason I'm doing this. Lots of tension in the group. We're immediately introduced to this idea of tension and them clashing on ideals and how to deal with things, right? So anyway, they go on about attacking these tubes. They all kind of separate to attack different tubings. Arges is the first one to break through. When he does, shoots out a bunch of air, he gets blown back by it, and then he goes over to watch the humans, watch them scramble and start to freak out. And as he's watching them, he gets closer and closer, and one of the humans turns and sees him and like just has a freaking staring contest with him while that human is directing all of the other ones to get on the escape elevators and get to the other rooms where there's actual like oxygen available, right? Everybody's like covering their mouths. I don't know. Whatever. Again, we won't get into the science of all of this stuff, but the air is starting to thin in there and they're all freaking out. So this human is like making full eye contact with Arges though. And all of a sudden the guy looks happy. He doesn't look scared anymore. He looks overjoyed. And Arges is like, what in the heck is that about? Right as he's thinking that, he feels a metal arm bash him on the back. So the humans have these little drone thingies that kind of survey the area and like do different things. And so this particular one like locks Arges up, I guess, or like grabs him or something, takes him into some room, somehow gets him into the human bubble area, gets him in here with all of the people. Arges is about to die because he needs water. He's got gills and fins and shit, and they just threw him in the air. They just like threw him on land, kind of, sort of, you know what I'm saying? So he's starting to freak out and he's like, you know what? A, this really, really sucks. But B, if I'm going to die, I'm taking as many humans out with me as I can. So he starts chasing them down as much as a little floppy finned dude can as he's running out of air. So he's going down this thing, trying to attack these people. And we cut to chapter 3, Mira's perspective. She was down in one of the hallways doing some other work and stuff. And when all these alarms were going off, and it's how was this described? It made me laugh. Of all the times to be late, Mitera had to pick the one time that red lights flashed through the halls, the ones that meant seriously get the out. So she's running through the halls. Well, kind of sort of running, trying to conserve oxygen, whatever. She's trying to hurry along. Tries to get to the elevator, but it is locked somehow. I guess the guy, when he turned on the alarm for it, it was in the elevator, so now the elevator doesn't work anymore. None of any of this book really makes that much sense. Don't think about it too hard, okay? Point being, she can't get on the elevator. The only other option that she can get to try to get to another level area thing to be safe and breathe is outside. Now, why in the hell is there an elevator that goes outside? I don't know. What happened? What happened? So she is trying to think of like, okay, well, now what do I do? Like, how do I get to that elevator? Like, what are my options here? She gets hit across the stomach by a little fin. And of course, you guessed it, it's Arges. He is pissed. So she's looking at him. He's looking at her. They're looking at each other. They're looking at each other. He's like angry. She says, whoa, stop. She runs back. She hits a button to close off the hallway that they're in. And then she grabs her welder and starts welding or like doing the little flame thing over the seams of one of the glass windows in the room with the idea. And she tries to explain this to Arges, but obviously they don't speak each other's language. And so he has no idea what she's talking about. She's just like flailing her arms and trying to go through this. But she's doing this little weldy thing to try and get the panel off. And then they'll try and push the panel out. And then that way it'll fill with water. Arges will be able to breathe, and then he can take her to the elevator outside that she needs to get to. Sure. So halfway through doing this, the air in that room runs out, so the flame of her welder dies. So it's only like partially done, but it's done enough. And so she starts like almost hallucinating because she is completely lack of oxygen here, like passing out. Arges, though, thank God, at least understands what's happening a little bit. So he starts like banging on the panel. Finally, that breaks. Water rushes in. He grabs her, realizes she can't breathe. She's like almost passed out and she's freezing cold. So he gets her all up there, you know, and then he gives her like mouth to mouth, basically. It's like, it reads so weird. Hold on, where did this go? Instead, he moved closer and then sealed his lips over hers. Oh, he was cold. That was her first thought. And she was surrounded by deep, icy ocean water that already squeezed her chest and made what little air was in there come out. mere minutes and she'd go into hypothermic shock if she somehow managed to breathe. Somehow his lips were colder than all of that, but smooth as they slid over hers. His tongue swept out, licking her lips, and she was so shocked that she opened them without thinking. Maybe he was giving her some kind of mercy before she died? Okay. And so he breathes into her mouth. She initially freaks the frick out about it and doesn't really know what's happening, almost drowns, and then realizes, oh, okay. And then he does it again and she's able to breathe. And then he goes over to the elevator, wrenches the door open, threw her inside so quickly that the water only filled about halfway before the door slammed shut. I need this drawn out for me. I can't picture how any of this is happening. Chapter 4, Arges is going back to find his pod. When he goes to find them, because he's like, oh, this is great. We must be celebrating like I did. I almost died, but at least I messed up this one tube. I'm going to assume it happened with all of my brothers or like my pod people, that they all did a good job and did their part. Instead, he is greeted by his brother who says, where the F were you? Arges says, what are you talking about? Brother says, where the F were you? You abandoned us. The humans knew that we were attacking and one of our guys died. We all got attacked and one of our guys died and you were off gallivanting doing whatever. Where the hell were you? Arges is like, tries to argue back or defend himself or be like, I don't know what's going on. And all of a sudden the brother, I was going to say sniffs. I was going to do but it's with his fins. So they like taste with their little fin things. They like get the little smells in their fins. Anyway, the brother can taste, smell, tell, whatever, that he had touched a human. Myra, what the hell? How was I saying her name a minute ago? I think Myra. I don't know. Who fucking cares? So Myra, smell is like all over him. And so the brother's like, oh, hell no. You were off with a human? With a chromos or whatever. You let one of our people die and you abandoned us to go hang out with a human? What is happening? Beats the crap out of him. Drags him basically to town center. And I imagine it's like the Game of Thrones thing. Shame thing. He's just dragging him through town. So he gets there, gets thrown down on the ground. He looks up and sees Mitera. The matriarch of their people was stunning and otherworldly. Long ago, she'd given herself to the coral. She died in the roots and then allowed the sea itself to fill her. Her hair had turned into a bell of shimmering color like a jellyfish lived atop her head. Her skin was entirely transparent, flickering with electric lights that rolled across her entire body. Her tail was covered in pale scales. Her tail was covered in scales pale as pearl that changed color when she was angry or happy or sad. Wow, that is a scales pale. Her tail? Sorry. Oh, dude, my brain can't comprehend that. That is like a tongue twister. Her tail was covered in scales pale. But it was her eyes, those iridescent, terrifying eyes that had always seen right through him. What's the meaning of this? She asked, her melodic voice floating through the currents. The brother explains everything. And then she turns to Arges and she's like, is this true? What's going on? He says, yes, there was a human, but I got trapped. I got attacked by them. And the human that you smell on me, she saved my life. And Mitera? Who the hell? Mitera? She goes, she does the same thing with her little gills. She says, I don't smell fear. Like, this human's not afraid of you. Have you met her before? He says, yes, one time. I tried to kill her both times, though, so I don't know what you want from me, blah, blah, blah. Mitera says, she's not afraid of you, my son. This is a blessing and a curse. And says, she is a current. Her hair swallowed them up like they were the only two people in the ocean. You will follow that current. Use her to the best of your ability, my son, my child, soul of my soul. You will take her from her safe home. You will make her trust you, and in doing so, you will learn the secrets of the Acromos. I do not wish to return to her. I wish to serve our people. And so you will. With every secret you unveil from her pale soul. Why is the author doing this to me right now? Arges, you are the first to find one unafraid of our kind. Draw her to us. Mitera backed away, just enough for him to see 100 colors swirling in the depths of her eyes. Go collect your strange new friend, Arges. With her at our side, we will finally destroy them all. So we go into chapter 5. Myra is dealing with the consequences of her actions. When she flooded out that hallway thingy that they were in, it kind of separated like the engineers' quarters from the rest of the world or whatever, from the rest of the quadrant. I don't know. Caused a whole bunch of trouble though. So she's in like the watchtower area and they're watching back the footage and trying to figure out how they can go and fix it and get to this area again, or I don't know, repair some stuff, just like whatever. And she's volunteering to be on the team to go and fix this because obviously she didn't tell them that she got saved by a freaking Undine. She told them that she was able to close off that one door and got into one of the escape pods. So now she's like, hey, I want to be on the team that goes out there to fix that wall, so that when she fixes it, she can go in and release one of the escape pods, you know what I mean? So people won't like know that she's lying about stuff. So she's up here. They're talking about all this stuff. She's watching things and then everybody leaves and she's just kind of depressed and thinking about like how much everything sucks and all escalated so quickly. And she realizes on all of these screens in front of her of all these cameras that are over the entirety of beta, there's a little buttons and you can click through them. There's a recording button, so you can just record stuff, obviously. Kaylee, what else do you think a button like that would do? There's also a green button, so you can change the little view and whatnot. The recording thing, by the way, does play a role later, so we'll circle back to that one. There's a reason I said it. So she's clicking through all the cameras. All of a sudden, she sees a yellow Undine. Our guy is blue. I didn't describe him. I'll put up a photo of the cover so you can see what he looks like. If I get anywhere where there's like more of a description, I'll tell you about it. I think I have it highlighted like in a minute or two where I'll tell you what he looks like. But anyway, so she sees a yellow Undine. Yellow Undine, a little freaky, but he's staring at something. So she's clicking through all the cameras trying to figure out what he's looking at. And she comes to find the blue one, the one that she just saved the other day. He's over here eyeballing Beta Corporation, and she is pissed. She's like, I just saved your ass. We literally just saved each other's lives, and now you're over here doing stupid stuff. Like, you are literally about to die, and she's just angry. She's just mad at how stupid that he's being. She starts waving the camera back and forth. He catches it. He looks at it. And then she starts waving the next camera down, waves that one back and forth. So then he looks at that and he gets a little closer. And she ends up shaking all of the cameras to guide him to where she is. But she doesn't realize that she's doing it. That was like a subconscious thing. And when she realizes that that's where she's guided him, she's dealing with something and she can see like a shadow. And I'm like, wait a second, a shadow from what? You're at the bottom of the ocean. They talk about how dark it is all the time. Are there lights? Are there not lights in the room? How would you get a shadow from a guy on the outside of your thing? What? Okay, you know what? I'm not going to think about it too hard. So she sees his shadow. She's like, oh, shit, and looks up at him. Somehow, through the glass, he was 10 times larger than she remembered, or maybe it was just that his tail was all spread out now. She could see it, all 10 feet of it, vertically, which made him 15, 16 feet tall, maybe? He was massive, huge, enormous, all the words that meant big. It felt like I read the Colleen Hoover Slammed book last week, and in it she has a poem called Mean, and she like literally reads every single word or every single synonym of the word mean. That's what I just felt like. Massive, huge, enormous, big. Girl, shut up. He's in front of the glass. He like puts his hand on the glass. She puts her hand on the glass. His hand's so big. She's like, oh my God, this is so crazy. And she keeps trying to talk to him and telling him to go away. And she's like trying to motion and he has no idea what she's doing. I don't know what's happening. A guy is coming up and he said, Mira, are you up there? She says, go to Arges. And then she turns around to the guy. She turns back around. Arges is gone. Whew, thank goodness. And the guy is like, hey, I know everybody was ignoring you earlier, but you had some good suggestions. The engineers are working on these crazy suits that allow us to go outside and like be really, not tactile, versatile, mobile, allow you to move your body. Because she was like, well, why don't we just go out there in one of the diving suits and we can just weld it from the outside. Like we can fix the room from the outside. And they were like, the suits aren't rated for that type of activity. And now this guy says, hey, you were right. There's some little secret things going on. There are suits that are rated for that ability. Come with me. And we also learn that she has been working on a little secret side project called a rebreather. It's this little bubble that goes on her mouth. And instead of like the oxygen tanks or whatever that like scuba divers wear, this one just somehow magically converts and creates oxygen out of the water around you. Like it, like, I don't know, where does the carbon where's your out breath go? I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's just the vibes. Okay. She got this little bubble thing. So he takes her to get this, and they sneak off to go and figure out what the game plan is and what they're going to do to actually be able to fix everything. Right. We go to chapter 6. We're back in Arges's POV. He is stalking her like religiously right now because he's trying to get the opportunity to kidnap her as his little matriarch lady told him to, right? And he is just over here talking mad shit about these humans. He's like, they're so boring. I would lose my mind and be an irritating freaking menace to society as well if I just sat here and did the same thing day in and day out. But she's been working more and more with the one engineer guy with this whole suits and rebreather thing, right? And he's noticing this. And he's like describing her day. Then she would sneak off with another male, one he already hated, and they would disappear into one of the rooms he couldn't see. Was she mating with him? The idea shouldn't be so frustrating, but it made him very angry. The first time he'd seen the pattern. Why else would a female and male disappear into the same room? The thoughts dug through him like a puffer fish spines, angering him even more. He told himself it was because he would smell the other male if he had to steal her away. She'd smell like someone else, and her scent was the only one he found tolerable. Oh, okay. Eventually her pattern changes, and on this day, he follows her down. She goes to like one of the deeper parts of the city that's closer to the bottom of the ocean. So then I was like, wait a second, have we not been on the ocean floor? Are we just like vibing up in the air somewhere? In the middle? Hello? I don't know what's happening. Anyway, he like follows her down. They go to this other section. He's never been here before. He's like, wow, we could have attacked over here and we really would have destroyed the humans. But we don't patrol this area for one reason or another. I don't freaking know. I didn't read that close. I did. I just have a horrible memory. And so anyway, he goes down here. One of the doors open. This metal box creature thing comes out, falls to the ground with a huge thud, and he is horrified. He's like, the creature gets up and it starts moving. And he's like, it shouldn't have survived a fall like that. It didn't even shake off any pain. It's not breathing. It's literally just plopping along. Like, this is crazy. These humans are freaking monsters just creating this crazy stuff. And then another form dropped out of the city. This one more lithe and gleaming. For a moment, he thought it was some kind of pale fish that they had tamed, but then he realized what it was. It was his Acromo, in the water, swimming with him. He'd never mistake the shape of her body. He had pressed her against his chest, her tiny hands skating over his gills, even though he thought she had been unaware of the intimate touch. And this was her. Her body was covered in some silvery material, and it moved with her like a second skin. Bright and lightly colored, it mimicked fish scales in the light. Her hair was covered as well in the same material, and some strange device covered her eyes. But what covered her mouth had his attention like nothing else. It was clear like a bubble. He could see her lips moving as though she were talking to herself, but it was clearly doing something to allow her to breathe. He could see her chest moving in and out as she sank through the water toward the metal monster. And so the metal monster is carrying like a big metal panel for her and taking it over to where this little wall thing is so she can do underwater welding and fix the panel. Obviously, that does not happen. She might not know it yet, but that Acromo was his, and he intended to take her. In chapter 7, she's like in the middle of working, and he comes up behind her and grabs her. Mira fought with even more intent once she realized that it was him. At first she thought it was like a shark, and so she tried to stab it. And then she felt like his forearm wrap around her, and she realized that it was him. Mira fought with even more intent. How dare he? He thought he could attack her outside the city. They had a deal, or at least some semblance of a deal. She'd saved his life. He'd saved hers. They were even. This damned thing needed to leave her alone. So he grabs her, starts swimming off with her to go to the depths. They like are on an ocean shelf area, and he's like going to swim down into the depths, but she knows if she goes down there, she will get crushed. Like the pressure, they can barely survive kind of where they are now. If they go any lower, she's going to end up dying. So she's freaking the F out. She starts screaming. He's not listening. Eventually, she finally remembers that she has the knife, stabs him in the arm. He lets go. she like gets taken by a current and goes like just floating down the sea, and she can't fight it. She's just like tangled up in it. Eventually she falls out of the bottom of the current and ends up in this lava rock area where there's just like a bunch of like maybe I'm thinking of cave stuff. Do I know what the ocean looks like? It's just like these big old spiky rocks. And so these big old spiky rocks, she ends up like wedging her way in between them and trying to hide down there, hoping that the Undine will not be able to find her. But when she gets down there and she's wiggling and stuff, she ends up bonking her head. She has a headlamp, and she bonks her headlamp against one of the rocks and it breaks. And now she is just in complete and utter pitch black darkness at the bottom of the ocean, which I don't have claustrophobia or like thalassophobia or whatever the hell it's called when you're scared of the ocean. I'm not really scared of the dark. Well, I am scared of the dark. Who's not? But I don't know. But something about this conversation right now is really making my chest tight. This is really freaking me out real bad, man. So her headlamp goes out. Everything plummeted into darkness. She thought she was scared before. Now she knew real fear. Nothing existed. She didn't exist if not for the feel of the stone around her and the icy water gathering at the base of her spine, because there was a tear in her suit now. There was no light, and she thought she knew what it was like to stare into the darkness, but she had been so wrong. This was like she was dead. This darkness was like someone had plucked out her eyes and taken her ears. She was nothing and everything all at once. Dude, these descriptions are killing me so bad. Eventually, though, she sees the Undine, because he like glows. He's got little glowy lines on his body, and like he's got little tentacle things in his hair that are blue and glow blue. And so she sees this little light of him coming toward her, because again, he can do the sniffs her thing. Do you like my gill flaps when I do the sniffing noise? Anyway, he can smell her, so he's coming to her, and she's thinking he was beautiful. She thought if she died here, she was grateful that it was at the hands of something like him, which wouldn't be me. Wouldn't be me. I don't think I would ever be grateful, actually. I'm going down with a fight. You think I give a shit? I got a knife, my guy. You're going down with me. Then those gills stopped moving, a ripple stiffening them as he turned in her direction, and she knew somehow he had found her. But she supposed it was never easy for prey to hide from a predator, especially not one like him. So he approaches her, swims over. She's trying to wiggle further and further back into this little rock things. She like takes off her fins that she has on her feet and like throws them at him. I don't know what good that's going to do. And now your foot's exposed to the cold ass water. It made no sense. She is so dumb sometimes. Throws a thing at him. He starts talking to her. She's freaking out. And Arges opened his mouth again, only to have her frantically wave her hands and then lower them, slowly, as if, was she saying he talked too loud? He drew back, his fin flipping him almost the entire length of his tail away from her. Was she really trying to say that he was too loud? He had never been the boisterous brother, and many people asked him to repeat himself because he was so quiet. The idiotic, ridiculous, horrible fool of an Acromo had no idea how insulting she was. She didn't know that his people would laugh at him if he told them that she'd asked him to speak quieter, which is a interesting piece of like cultural, I guess, world building stuff to have in here. Like there were definitely some points in here where I was like, whoa, you really actually kind of thought out how this whole society works of these mermen. That's kind of legit, you know? There were some I'll give credit where credit is due. There were some moments where I said, that's cool. Eventually she comes out, she tries to swim away. He grabs her, balls her up because he can feel how cold she is, but also he says how warm she is. And then she kind of like nestles into him because she is freezing her little butt off and now he's warm. But I thought he was cold. So how is he warm? Can we get our story straight here, right? So he's like carrying her, holding her, cradling her as he's swimming to a cave system to like drop her off somewhere. So sucking in a breath, his gills fluttered against her strange second skin as she curled those little flippers into him. Her little feet. Those are her little flippers. Her actual flippers, like the actual ones, she threw away. So now he's just talking about her little toesies, okay? Curled those flippers into him. To stay warm? Perhaps. They had looked very much like they were fragile, too thin, too bony for this deep in the ocean. So he let her do whatever it took. He swam for them, letting the current take him not deeper, but up a little so he could bring her somewhere safe. But the entire journey, all he could think about was her little flippers pressed against one of the most private places on his body. Did she know what she was touching? Was she aware that if he had been even remotely attracted to her, that she would have a significantly more concerning appendage pressed against her soft belly? Or rather between her strange tails, he supposed. He was much larger than her after all. So then I said, pause, hold on. So her feet are flippers, her legs are tails, which is kind of cute. Her twin tails. Kind of a goofy way to say it. However, comma, how in the hell is this man holding her? Or she curled her feet, a boner. I don't What do you mean? I don't understand. I don't understand any of it. So he takes her to this little cave thing, throws her in there, and just like dips out. He says, you have water and light. Obviously, she doesn't understand him. He's just making like, they sound like whale noises. Wah, 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 wah. I hope not like that. I don't know why I did that. I'm sorry. So anyway, he throws her in this cave. It's like, you go in, there's cave, there's a bunch of water. They go up to like the little thing, and there's like the little pool, and then there's a cave lip. And it used to be like a research facility type beat for some research. Obviously, Kaylee, what am I doing with my life to be talking in such a way? There were some deep ocean researcher humans who had set up a base camp or something in this room. So there's a little computer, there's electricity somehow. I don't know, but there's like a light system in there. And so he's like, this is perfect for her. There's even like a little mattress in the corner with some moldy ass blanket. I don't know. There's some like crates and stuff. We'll get into it. But I was like, what do you mean? Again, you can't think too hard about this book, okay? So he drops her off in there. And then he is in his little whale speaking, talking thing. You have water and light. He pointed into the water. Now I will bring you food. And so he just leaves. And she's over here like waving all crazy and like trying to yell at him, telling him not to go. But he just does. Because again, they don't speak each other's language. How many times do I need to say it to you? And so in chapter 9, Mira screaming the F-bomb. The fucking Undine had kidnapped her. He followed her through that volcanic field, fished her out like she was nothing but a nuisance, and then left her here to die. She was so deep underwater, there was no way that she could sneak home. She didn't have her flippers, so swimming would be far too slow. Her feet would freeze off, and it was only a small miracle that the Undine put off an insane amount of heat around those waist fins of his. Otherwise, she'd have lost her toes on the journey here. So she is going about her day as much as you can when you're trapped in a cave. So she's like going through the crates, she's getting the computer powered up and stuff. The computer is not connected to the internet. I don't know. It says like it's not connected to whatever the hell. So she can't contact anybody to let them know where she is or that she's missing or fine or whatever. So she's just kind of vibing, hanging out. She hears water. The sound of rippling water caught her attention. Mira turned and shrieked when she saw the Undine floating behind her in the pool. Just the top of his head and his eyes showed, watching her with his black gaze that somehow was more unnerving out of the water than in it. Which is creepy AF. And so he's just staring at her. She's trying to have a conversation with him. He throws a fish at her. She can't really do anything with it because she doesn't have a knife and she has no way of cooking it or anything. And so eventually he realizes what's going on. He like guts and cleans the fish for her and puts it back up on the thing. And then she's like, I can't do anything with this. And she makes a motion trying to explain the welder that she had, like when he had kidnapped her. She's trying to explain that she needs that so she can cook this fish. And so he disappears under the water, comes back, throws something else at her. Frowning, she brought it down to look at the ancient welder that he had brought her. It was waterlogged with barnacles growing along the handle, but it was definitely a welder. And so she sits down, she's super excited. It's going to be a game changer. She takes it apart to clean it out and get all the parts kind of cleaned up so she'll be able to use it. He eventually gets tired of watching her, and when he goes to leave, she says, "Wait," she shouted, lunging for the water as he started to disappear. At least he came back up at her shout, his brows furrowed and his eyes narrowed in suspicion. What would keep him here? Maybe communication? Obviously, he had kidnapped her for a reason. Maybe the creature had a little crush. She had no idea. All she could think to do was tap herself on the chest 3 times. "Mira," she said, tapping it again. My name is Mira. He watched her, and she swore he understood what she was trying to say before he sank into the depths. She watched his tail flick through the golden light and then disappear. It's also golden light because in the cave thing, there's a bunch of flowers that are like bioluminescent, and it's beautiful and like really cool, I guess. But then obviously she also has the lights from the cave system. I don't freaking know. We go into chapter 10. He keeps kind of like checking in on her and seeing what's going on. And this time he sneaks up. She doesn't know he's there, and so he flicks water at her. She let out a frustrated noise and glared at him. Oh, how he adored that expression. She wanted to fight him. He could see that. She wanted to reach into the water, rip him out of it, and gut him like he'd gutted the fish for her. Thankfully, it would take a lot more than her meager claws to do that to him. Still, he couldn't help but goad her. You think you're such a warrior, he asked, the spines of his fins raising. Such a shame, Akromo. If you step foot in this water, I will tear you apart. The waters will turn red with your blood, and I will watch it plume from your wounds. A small pebble hit him in the center of the forehead. Freezing where he was, he touched a hand to the now stinging part of his skull. Had she just thrown a rock at him? Apparently so. This fearless little creature had no problem at all rising to the occasion of his threat. She stood there with her hands on her hips glaring at him, and then she started talking. He didn't need to understand her to know what she was saying, because she was surprisingly succinct with her gestures. She wanted to kill him, and if he came close to her at all, she would throw another rock at him, and then, well, she drew a finger across her throat so he could only assume that was even more of a threat. But instead, he's like, oh, I'd show her who's boss. So he like launches himself out of the water, grabs her, pulls her into the water with him, just trying to like freak her out. But instead of, I guess, tasting fear, scenting fear in the water, as he expected, he only scented rage. And so he says, oh, I kind of like that. She's this little feisty thing. She was lovely. Damn it, he hadn't wanted to think about it, but she really was. The kelp tangled around her legs and the golden light made her turn a hue that his people rarely saw. She was a rare and delicate creature, if a little ugly, and he had captured her. Long ago, his people hunted for their brides. They chased and prowled and fought each other for the right to win a woman's heart. And apparently, there was still some part inside of him. His nature screamed that he had claimed her. This woman was his. He'd hunted her. He'd bested her. And now she was his to do with as he pleased. A little bit more just watching her go about her day. She grabs the torch, or I guess it's a torch thing. I don't know what the wording really, the welder. She tries to hand it to him, which I don't understand. His Akromo had one of the tools he had brought her in her hands. Flicking it on and off, she moved it back and forth between her hands before holding it out to him. Arges did not take it. He knew well enough the danger of the Akromos weapons, and he had no interest in them. Apparently, it was not the right response. Again, she gestured with it and then pointed at herself, pointed at the weapon, pointed at herself, and then pointed at him. Do you want more junk? He asked, his lip curling in disgust. You want me to bring you more broken things? Clearly, she had no idea what he was saying, but he understood her request. All right, Akromo. His gills flared again before he could stop them. How could she know it was the correct mating ritual for her to request that he bring her treasures? I will bring you more junk. With a flick of his tail, he sank beneath the waves and fled from that golden light, fled from the thoughts in his mind where he had thought, for a moment, she might understand what she asked. Uh-oh, we go into chapter 11, and she is feeling a little lonely, feeling a little not very good about being in this cave all by herself, and feeling the looming thing of death. Apathy hung over her head, dripping down the back of her skull and into her spine with wet plops. What was the point? Why try to fix the console when she knew that there was nothing she could do to get it working? She could do to get it to work, not down here. There weren't any components to add to the sodden thing, not to mention nothing she could use to fix the rusted wires or bolts that had long since crumbled into dust. The only working tool she had was the damned welder, and that thing was at least 6 models old. Wait, I thought the computer was connected and I thought the computer turned on earlier. So what do you mean rusted wires? I'm not going back to check it. I don't care that much. I'm confused. I am continually confused, but it's okay. So eventually Arges returned. He has this metal box. He hands it to her. The hunk of metal might not look like much, but she recognized an android when she saw one. Her father used to tinker with these in his spare time, relics of a time long past. They had first been used to scope out potential areas of the ocean where cities could easily be built. It looked a bit like a square box right now, but she knew how to wake it up. It is literally quite possibly the best thing he could have brought her. So she puts the box down. She gets to tinkering with it, folds back. A little head pops up. A small metallic head popped out of the box. It had larger eyes than most of the robots that she had seen before. She called them eyes because they were shaped like binoculars on top of the metal pole holding them up. It didn't blink or have any screens to give it actual eyes, but it did have little wipers that cleared away some gunk with a squeaky sound. That is so cute. The droid turned to look at the Undine, and then a flash of bright light filled the room. It had taken a picture of him. And apparently that was enough to startle the creature into the water. So Robot looks at her. Thank you, strange woman. Thank you. I don't know how to do the voice for this little robot guy. I wish I could do like a cartoony, like, thank you, strange woman. But I feel like that would get really, really annoying, so I'm not going to. But just know in my head, I wish I could. Thank you, strange woman. How are you under the sea as well? We're in a cave. Ah. It looked around, those eyes swiveling on the rod before it turned its attention back to her. My designation is Beta Iota Epsilon 427. Main function is mapping the ocean floor. Upon first encounter with alien species, I was trapped underneath a rock for 63,875 days. She couldn't do that kind of math in her head, but it sure sounded like this droid had been down there for more than 150 years. She says, subordinate function? Knowledge gathering and database preservation. Well, that wasn't what she was hoping for. Some of these metal hunks had been fitted with antennas so they could contact cities wherever they went. Clearly, this was not one of them. Sitting down on a stool, she stared at the little being and wished it were easier than this. Database preservation, huh? Sounds thrilling. The ocean is full of unusual life forms. I've categorized at least 2,000 separate species in multiple layers of ocean floor. Even while pinned under that rock, I was able to discover many life forms. I would show you, but it appears my projector is broken. That's all right. She asks if it has a name. It says it doesn't. She says, Beta Iota Epsilon. What about Bite? Offers to give him a name. The little robot is so excited to have a name. Eventually, she says, was it lonely being down there in the cold all by yourself? I cannot feel loneliness. Oh, come on now. My father used to work on all sorts of droids. I've met at least 20 of your kind, and I know for a fact that you were programmed with personalities. So tell me, was it lonely? Bite took a long time to reply. Perhaps it was firing up the parts of its hard drive that gave it a bit more emotion than other droids, but eventually it quietly replied, the first few months were peaceful. My functions would not work, and there was nowhere for me to go. I was afraid, and then I was at peace, because the ocean continued on around me, and there was so much to watch. But, Mira asked, but eventually it was very lonely. I felt like I was the last thing alive in the entire world, and nothing could understand me. The robot's voice was much quieter as it responded, I am glad to have met you, my new friend. Mira, she said quietly. I forgot to tell you my name, but it's Mira. Mira, Bite repeated. It means admirable or ocean, depending on who you ask. She's like, oh my God, you're so smart. He says, yeah, duh, that's my job. I do database stuff. I know all kinds of things. I can learn anything. And she says, anything? Yeah, I can learn anything. She says, could you learn another language? So she gets this bright idea. The robots can create little like language chips. And then it gets like implanted, and then your brain all of a sudden can like speak and understand that language. So she asks if he can create that, like if he has the capability to do so. I can create a chip, yes, but I will need to listen to the language for a considerable amount of time before I can create it. It's a start. I just have to figure out how to get him to talk then. He sounds like a whale. Whales have a language. I have translated the language before, and though it is minimal, it is very beautiful in comparison to many languages. Do you think they're comparable or comparable? How do you say that word? I'd go back and forth, honestly. Is there a difference? I don't know. I don't care. I would have to hear the Undine speak. Then I'll get him to speak. How? I have no idea, but you and me, Bite, we're a team in this, and together we'll get back to the city. I'll clean you up and get your metal to shine the moment that we get back. You hear me? The little robot wiggled with excitement, and it took everything in Mira to not do the same. When Arges eventually comes back, she's so excited to see him. She's like so happy, hee hee ha ha, and is trying to talk to him. He's like mad suspicious, thinking like, what did she have planned? You are not a trustworthy creature, he muttered, trying to keep his voice lower and quieter like she had asked. I do not know what you want of me, Akromo. Every word he said brightened her feature, and she was pretty, in a way. If he looked past her face and ignored her hair and tried not to think about the way she peeled her silver skin off of her body, right, well, now he was thinking about it. She held her hand out to him, chattering away in that childish voice that set his teeth on edge. Still, it was something that he could work with. Perhaps he could learn her language this way. If he listened hard enough, then he could perhaps converse with her. Learning their language would certainly satisfy his Mitera's need for information. They could listen through the walls of their home and know what the Akromos' plans were and when they were going to attack. Yes, this was a good plan, even if it meant having to listen to her prattling voice. They have a little bit of back and forth. He tries to converse with her. It's irritating, though, because obviously they don't know what the other ones are saying. He goes and gets the fish, brings it back to her, and he's thinking her fingers were tiny and her nails were blunted. Any fish would get away from her long before she had the chance to use those soft claws. She didn't swim fast enough to even catch prey that was mortally wounded. He'd have to take care of her for the rest of her life. Arges frowned at the thought. She wasn't going to be alive for very long anyway. Here he was thinking about years away when he'd have to hunt for her every single day. And yet he knew she would die at the end of this. Mira was a means to an end. That was all. In chapter 13, he keeps repeating words to her because he's trying to teach her his language and whatnot. And so Bite isn't getting very much information. I think at this point, they're less than 1% of the information gathered of his language. And so then she's like, okay, this is not working. What can we do instead? And asks Bite to create an English translation chip, and she's just gonna have to give it to Arges and put it on Arges's little skull thing, so he'll at least be able to understand her. Bite is not down for this plan. He's like, hey, it causes a lot of pain because it's all of a sudden your brain is getting rushed with all of this information to be able to understand the language. And so it is a blinding, horrific pain for a couple of minutes while your body and brain is rewiring itself to be able to do this. And so Bite is not for this plan because he's going to think you're hurting him and he's going to kill you. She says, it's a risk we gotta take. We don't really have a choice. So Bite does it. I think she directed it. I think she had to use his full government name and was you will do this, and order him to do it. Next time Arges comes in, she has to try to figure out how she can get him to swim close enough to her so she can put the chip on his head. So you can imagine these little freaks. This turns into her trying to seduce him. Basically, Mira licked her lips, watching that heat flare even hotter in his gaze. You like that? She whispered. It wasn't a question because she knew. This could get out of hand if she let it. Although she had her doubts about how far it could even go between them, still, maybe keeping his mind off of those thoughts would be best. She lifted her hand and exhaled on her palm. Breath. That made him straighten. She did it again. They both put their hands up together, talking about the webs. He has webbed hands. She does not. It's a whole thing. He grabs her hand and trails it down his body to go to his gills, or I guess it's gills, on his rib cage. Biting her lip, she wondered what he thought of her body, because the whole time she's like, damn, he's muscular. He is so fine, actually. This is crazy. I'm actually getting turned on being next to this little hottie toddy. Biting her lip, she wondered what he thought of her body. In her opinion, he was still passable, strange to look at, but not so unusual that she couldn't see past their differences. The sculpted planes of his face were infinitely beautiful, not to mention the muscles that ran through his entire torso. If he had been a human, she'd want to lick every drop of water out of those deep hollows. Oh my God. No, she couldn't let her mind drift down that lane of thinking. She was here to make him understand her so she could tell him that she needed to get back home. So she curled her fingers around his, lifting his hand to her mouth and exhaling on his palm. Breath. His eyes were black, so she had no idea how they darkened even further, but she could almost taste his arousal in the air. Oh my God. They locked together, trapped in each other's gazes as she breathed against his palm. The webs between his fingers shook, vibrating with some emotion she was terrified to name. But then he rotated his wrist, trapping her hand in his. Carefully, he drew her hand down his torso. Heat made her cheeks burn and the tips of her ears ache. Was he? No, certainly not. Was she going to let him? Arges stopped her hands right below his ribs, and she ripped her gaze away from his when she felt air moving over her palms. Not just air, but it felt like someone was blowing on her fingers. Breath. He repeated, the word drawn out and so guttural that she almost didn't make it out. He was breathing out of his gills, she realized. An exhale through his rib cage that feathered over her fingers and turned them icy hot. Not warm breath, not like her own, but cold as the ocean. It made goosebumps pop all up and down her arms. Or maybe that was the strong grip that slowly hovered her hand over his ribs, his chest, and his collarbone. He stopped her fingers at his throat and then again murmured, breath. And so then she starts so I guess on his head, he has the gills, but then they're really big and feathered and billowy. She said before that it looks like a collared shirt from history books. But yeah, so she's fingering his gills. The longer frills seemed to reach back, curving around her fingers and sliding through them. He arched into her touch, the strong, thick neck bowing as though he couldn't quite handle the touch. She thought maybe that she'd hurt him, and then she heard him groan. And so then she just keeps doing it. Keeps touching him, and he just keeps groaning. And then it all came crashing down on her head. She was stroking a damn undine near to completion like a complete madwoman. She'd gotten so wrapped up in the moment, so full of wonder at the sights and sounds of all the muscle and the handsome man in front of her, that she had forgotten the reason she was doing this. The translation chip. Put the translation chip on his ear and stop touching him like you're trying to jerk him off. She grabs the chip, puts it in his little neck, hits the little button. He gets in pain. So he bolts out of there, right? Turns around real quick, dives away. And we go to chapter 14, where in his POV, a complete and utter pain. It's just screaming, cannot make it go away pain. And he's like, she is a witch. This is wild. Blah, 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 blah. And then suddenly the pain goes. It's just gone. His mind fractured. Part of him wanted to return to the cave and destroy her, rip her limb from limb for the pain that she had caused, and the other half wanted to continue what they had started. He wanted her to stroke his gills with those talented fingers. No webs between her digits, and that meant she could reach so much farther while touching both sides? What? What am I reading? It had been exquisite. The pleasure before the pain. He'd arched into her touch, wanting more, needing more. The heat of her body had called to him worse than any siren song his kind had released into the sea. She was every temptation he'd ever had, all wrapped up in a body he should hate, in a mind that was far too devious. Mira was dangerous. He knew that, and yet some part of him still wanted to keep her as his own. So he does go to the cave. This time, he launches himself out of the water again to attack her, and right before he does, she says, "Wait, hold on." And he understood her. Arges froze, certain that he'd heard wrong. Certainly she had not just spoken his language. The creature before him did not know how to speak the language of whales or the tongue of the sea. His brief moment of hesitation gave her a chance to purge the words from her lungs as he did water. "I'm so sorry. I wish I could have told you it was going to hurt. But how the was I supposed to mime that to you? You'd never let me put any of our devices on you anyway, so I just had to take a chance." So he starts to talk back to her, and she's like, "I can't understand you. The device I put in your ear is a translator. It knows my language, so now you also know my language. I have absolutely no idea what you're saying, though. I don't know your language, and neither does Bite." She pointed to the strange little box demon in the corner of the cave, and it gave him a little wave with its metal arm. I don't know why. That's probably my favorite sentence out of this whole book. Strange box demon in the corner of the cave, and it gave him a little wave with its metal arm. The visual of that makes me so happy. The more you talk, the more the robot can understand your language and give me a chance to get my own translator, and then we can speak. And so he is still really, really pissed, and he is expressing as much. He is talking mad shit to her, and she has no idea what is happening. He is mad because in his world, they were as good as promised. He'd hunted her, gifted her treasures. She'd touched his gills with such exquisite tenderness that it still made every part of his body vibrate with need. And it was wrong. Every bit of it was wrong. She'd stolen this from him because he had never done any of this with any other female, and now he would always remember his first mating trials, his first attempt at having a mate, and neither of them even wanted each other. It was a shame upon a warrior to have a mate deny him, but to deny a female, even one like her, it was unheard of. He softens, I guess, at this realization. He gets a lot less angry because he's like, we can make this work, pretty much. You know, he let the horniness get to him. She keeps yapping about some other stuff. He realizes that the robot can make more chips. And so his gaze heated with rage now. He barked at the little robot in the corner. You there, make more of these devices, make them now, and I will bring them to my people. Myra was far too observant for her own good. She looked at his gestures, watched as he pointed to the device in his ear, and it all seemed to click. No, she said quietly before her words came up more forceful. I will not give you more of those devices, not for your people. I have no way of knowing what any of you will do with them. He glares at her, and then she says, Beta Iota Epsilon 427, do not print any translators for any Undine. That is a direct order. Do you understand? The strange head of the creature lowered into the box before it let out a chirping, understood, and then sealed itself into the box. Had she just commanded the box to never listen to him? Anger surged forward again, and this time he loomed over her. He tightened his fingers around her wrists until it must hurt. It must be painful, and still she did not even wince. If you're trying to hurt me, you'll have to try a lot harder than that, she said, so matter-of-factly that it made his head spin. I'm an engineer, Undine. I've been burnt, hit, trapped in engines. Trapped in engines? More times than I can count. I've got calloused hands and tough bones. Do your worst. I don't like that. So he's touching her. She's getting little horny thoughts. You know how it is. Is anybody surprised? We're already turning the tides are shifting. We're at 36%. She's starting to get a little horny monster over this monster. And she eventually explains to him about how she needs water, like she needs fresh water. And so he runs off, goes and gets this sack thing, turning it a bit more. She could see there was a spout at the top, kind of like a lemonade pitcher her mother had been so proud of having. Well, here goes nothing. When she poured the substance over her tongue, she realized it was water, fresh, clean water, and no taste of salt at all. And even though she knew she should test a bit to make sure that it didn't run right through her and turn every hole of hers into a fountain of liquid, ew, she drank until she coughed. And even then, she only paused for a little while and then drank even more until her belly swelled with the liquid and her mind screamed she was going to puke. There was even more water left over, enough for a full day, or maybe two if she was careful with it. Water? You brought me water. He inclined his head, nodding at her like some prince in a fairy tale story, but that didn't match up. He wasn't the good guy. He'd kidnapped her, stolen her from her home, tried to kill her multiple times, and now he was taking care of her? Why am I here? She asked. What do you want from me? That set him off. He talked for a very long time, even bringing up his hands and gesturing with them wildly. Every now and then, water splashed up from his movements and spilled over her toes. She had no idea what he was saying, but only that he was talking a lot, and this was good. This meant that Bite could get even more of his language than before, and listening to him was strangely beautiful. She'd lay in bed for years listening to the haunting calls of whales, haunted by the sound of their melancholy from miles away, and now she got to listen to it up close and personal. Although his deep voice didn't quite sound like a whale, it sounded more like he was singing. He ends up making some comment about her feet and asking how breakable she is or something, and feeling her bones. And so then he feels up her leg and her shin, and she's getting all turned on by this whole thing that's happening. And he realizes how breakable and delicate that she is. And so he asks if the cave, he kind of motions and gets the gist of the fact of are you safe here in the cave? She said, this place makes me a little more breakable. Being cold and wet means I get sick easier. There are no vegetables, only the fish you bring me. So I will eventually not have enough of what I need to eat, and I'll likely die. If you have something you want from me, Arges, you probably need to ask it sooner rather than later. His brows furrowed and his expression grew troubled. Without another word, he sank beneath the surface and disappeared. She sighed, watching him go, with a strange mixture of relief and worry. Bite? Mira asked. How much of that did you get? The lid of the box popped open. We're now at exactly 4.2%. That was a good conversation, Myra. Groaning, she fell onto her back and stared up at the ceiling. I'm never going to get out of here. So Arges in chapter 16 is horrified at the realization of how delicate she is. He had no idea. And also, he thought that her whole leg thing and her He thought her legs were some like deformity or something, or some accident that she had. But now he's realizing like, no, that's just her body. It's just what she looks like. Humans are just little freaky creatures with all these bones in their legs, and stiff tails is what he calls them. And so he leaves, but he just can't stop thinking about her. He is just infatuated with this woman immediately. And he's coming to the realization of like, she's not just a means to an end. She's not just this pet that he has. Like, she's a person. Like, she's a person that he talks with, and she has a personality, and she's not this like monster that he has created in his head of what humans are. And so he's like really having kind of an issue, not an issue, but like a moral dilemma almost, like coming to terms with this idea. And as he's thinking about all of this, he senses something. So he gives a little sniff, a little thing with his gills. Turns out his brother, the douchebag one that I mentioned before, he had been in the area. So Arges is terrified. He thinks that maybe his brother went into the cave and like killed her, kidnapped her, or did something crazy. So he rushes into the cave to make sure that Mira is okay. Praise be, she is. But he says, all right, little lady, you got to pack it up. Like, we got to get out of here. Obviously, she doesn't really understand what's going on, but she kind of understands the gestures. And he, after some pushback, he ends up taking her, and they go to leave, and so he can take her to a safe spot and hide her away from his brother. He reached out his hand for her to take, sucking in a sharp breath at the feeling of the strange fingers slipping around his. She didn't flinch away from the webs between his, and he didn't mind that she didn't have them. This strange, fragile creature was a mixture of strength and aching delicacy. What? That turned his mind into mush. And then this is about to get freaky, okay? So she goes closer to him. She turns bright red because she is embarrassed about having to be so close to him and like hold on to him. And his people change colors when they have like emotions. And so he's seeing her have this. And so he's like, oh, does she like me? Is that what that means? That's kind of crazy. That can't be it. But then she swam a little closer to him, wrapping her arms around his neck and slotting her feet back into the fins at his hips that were always a little warmer. I don't know what's happening. Warm to keep his offspring safe should he wish to mate with someone. A position, he was certain, she did not know was so tempting that it made his hips buck forward. Girl, wait, hold on. So you put... Okay, sorry, she muttered, the words muffled by the device over her mouth. Just let me get situated. Any more situating, and he'd be pressing something other than fins between her legs. Angry at himself, he grabbed onto her a little more forcefully than he had anticipated, but then they were drifting underneath the water, and her fingers slid through the gills on his neck before he moved her arms away from them. They both shuddered, and he allowed himself to pretend they shuddered for the same reason. Perhaps she was remembering that fateful first touch when he'd arched into her fingers as she played with his gills, and he was thinking about the same thing. But realistically, he knew she shuddered only because the water was icy. So dragging her scent through his gills and letting it play underneath his scales, he speared them out of the cave and into the waiting depths so quickly that no one else could follow them, surely, but he thought he heard her murmur something about red lights in the distance. Red lights, his brother is red, so that's what that is in reference to. I'm still so confused. So he is like storing her scent under his skin? What does that even mean? I don't know anything about mermaids. In chapter 17, swimming through the ocean. They end up in like a kelp forest. It's beautiful. It's amazing. She's in awe. He lets her go. She gets to swim around a little bit. There's like an octopus that she goes and touches. There's schools of fish, and it is just absolutely beautiful. Her mind is blown. And there's this one particular plant that is like a big bell shape. And eventually he's like, get in it. She thinks that he's feeding her to a plant monster and she's about to get eaten. But when she goes in there, it's like an air pocket and she's able to breathe in there. And then in the bell, there's like a bunch of vines that hang down. And so he tells her to sleep there and like get tangled up in the vines and like almost like a hammock type situation. You know what I mean? And sleep there. And then if she gets hungry, she can go and fish for herself because there's plenty of fish around. And those are also the same plants that create the like sack of water that he brought her before. So she has everything she needs. So he says, you're good to go. It's warmer here. Like the water's warmer. So she's not like in danger of like freezing to death here. And in chapter 18, he just leaves her because he has to go and figure out what in the hell his brother was doing creeping at the cave. So he rushes back to his city, hating that he has to leave her undefended in this strange world, but he has no other option because he's got to figure out what is going on. And so when he gets to his like little city coral reef area where these folks live, there's like a huge gathering in, I'm going to call it Town Square. Is that how it's described? No, but it sounds cooler. That shows up to Town Square. There's like 100 of their people. Like all of their people are gathered up in here. More males than he could count and females armed to the teeth. They swirled in a slow circle around the central meeting place, around Mitera and his brother, who raised his arm into the air and jabbed his clawed hands toward the surface. They were not supposed to be here. Not his pod, not with him. And so his brother is like, you're taking too long to do all this stuff. Like, we're attacking the humans. We're ready. We're doing it. And Arges says, dude, I'm the leader. No, you're freaking not. Mitera interrupts and she says, Arges, you have your mission. You need to talk to the human and learn their secrets. That's why I put your brother in charge, temporarily while you're doing that mission. And he's going to go and, fight the good fight and go do all this stuff. And so Arges stays with Mitera, and the brother and like 100 people, murder people, go swimming off into the distance to go and attack Beta, right? To go and attack the human living quarters, whatever. So he's back here and he's talking to Mitera and he is like heartbroken. And he says, why? Why would you do this when you know that they will lose so many? And Mitera says, they must learn the hard way. You know the violence in your brother's heart. You have seen the darkness that lingers underneath his skin, and he will not give up his desire to kill and harm. There are better ways to learn. Not for him. Your brother speaks a language that is only blood and pain. He will learn this time. He will see that there is a great demon in this ocean, and it does not live with the depth striders. Now you're thinking, what the fuck is a depth strider? We don't find out in this book, but it sounds horrifying. I could smell them on him. I know. So could I. This was not an easy choice. You sent them to their deaths. I have given them a head start. They need to be reminded who leads this pod and why. So you will go after them, Arges, and you will save all that you can. I can catch up to them now. I can stop them if I need to. You will not go now. You will finish your prayers to every ocean god and goddess, that they will guide your hand and that you will be able to save as many of your people as you can. And you will ask for forgiveness. Forgiveness? For me. For I was the one who sent them to their ends. So he finishes all this. Finishes this prayer. She goes off, does God knows what. Who knows what this woman does? She just like, I don't know, whatever. Goes back into the coral, sinks back into it, gives herself back to the ocean. And so he waits a little while. He makes his little prayers. He does his little thing. And he goes storming off to go and find his pod. He gets there, comes over like, the depths. Like I said, they were on like the little seaside, cliffside thing. He comes up over the edge. His people are getting fucking obliterated by these like little attack things. I think it's like laser beams. There's some crazy shit that these humans are using. Just like often folks, like crazy. So Arges is calling out to people. There's a yellow merman who gets brought up quite a bit. I can't say any of these names, so I'm not going to. But yellow dude responds to him and takes his orders to like collect as many as he can and get them home. Eventually, Arges finds his brother in the middle of like fighting a little monster thing. Helps save his brother and gets him away. But his brother lost his arm. Like his arm got burnt off. It got ripped off by these like human thingy-majiggies. Homeboy didn't even realize it. He's just operating purely on like adrenaline and anger and hatred and like just fueled by all of this. He had no idea that he even lost his arm. So when Arges is like, hey, this is over. This is done. You can't keep doing this. It finally hits him. Like the pain finally hits the brother. And he's like, it's not over. This isn't the end. He's like, it is not over. What do you mean? Like, you're missing an arm. You need help. There's another who can give us answers. You have never done your job right, Arges. Never completely. And then something black flashed through his eyes. Something downright evil. I will get us answers if you cannot. And then his brother took off into the depths toward the one thing that made Arges's hearts. He has two hearts, two sets of lungs. I didn't tell you earlier, but anyway. Hearts stop beating before he raced after death itself. Not death for him, but for her. What is the one we... Call an ambulance, but not for me. That's what it made me think of. Oh. So in chapter 19, Mira's vibing in the kelp forest, hanging out, living her best life. Not doing very good though, because she still ain't got a knife. So she catches these fish and she can't really do anything with it. And Bite refuses to help her because he's afraid that he's going to get his stuff fried. Like if he opens up his box to like come out and stuff. But then I was confused because then I was like, but then how is he taking pictures of things if his little binocular head can't come out? Why is he so sensitive to water? Because there was a couple other times when they were in the cave too, where Arges would splash and she was freaking out because she was afraid that the box would get wet. And I was like, it lives on the ocean floor. It's cataloging the ocean floor. What do you mean it can't get wet? How does he take pictures if he can't get wet? Like it doesn't. I don't understand. But anyway, so he's not very helpful. She's just vibing. She goes out and she sits like in the middle of the kelp forest because she wants to feel like a mer person because she loves the ocean. Like she's always been fascinated by it. She's always loved it. And this is her chance now that her rebreather thing like actually works, her creation. She's like, this is awesome. She's out there chilling and she gets attacked by Arges's brother. Luckily, nothing happens to her. She just gets knocked around real quick. And then Arges appears. And then two other of the mer people appear. They're all arguing. And she's just hoping that Bite is listening. Because this is like really good conversation for him to be learning and like logging away all of this chatter. Eventually, the brother ends up fainting or whatever, like passes out from all of the blood loss. Because he's missing a fucking arm. So the other two take him and they scurry back over to the mer people village. Arges turns to her. He looks her over. He makes sure that she's not hurt at all. And then she's checking him out and she says, oh my God, you're hurt too. She looked up at him through her stupid goggles and tried to convey her worry, but he said nothing in response. He just looked back at her and she felt something inside of her click into place. She cared that this strange creature was injured, even when they couldn't understand each other. And she now considered him a friend. He understands you though. What do you mean? They don't understand each other. You don't have to convey your worry through your eyeballs. He understands you. What are we doing? In chapter 20, we're in Arges's perspective. He realizes that she's not hurt and he says, good, he said quietly, knowing that she couldn't understand him because I would have turned the waters black with their blood. I don't care that he's my brother or that the others have been in my pod for years. They do not understand the value or the worth of your life, Kairos, and I will not stand for their mistreatment of you. Brushing his fingers gently through her hair, he added, you are dear to me now. I fear I have brought you into a world where you can only meet your end. Okay. Kairos, by the way, Kairos. I looked it up because it was bothering me. It's a nickname that he started using for her. I think this is the third or fourth time that he said it. That's her nickname. And so begins like the rest of the chapter. They're pretty much cave hopping because he's afraid to leave her alone anywhere for too long because he's obviously very scared that his brother is going to attack her. In chapter 21, it's the next week or so. They've gone to so many different caves. Luckily, Bite, being the little cartographer, is that the word? Being his little oceanographer self, he knows the ocean. Like, he knows all the ocean floor and all the caves and all the little sneaky places. And so they keep finding all of these spots, but they just keep getting smaller and smaller and more wet and damp and gross and dark and just not a very good time. And so it gets to the point where she's like, I know what you're doing, Bite. Like, why are you doing this? Like, why are you sabotaging? And Bite refuses to answer. And so finally, they're in this cave where there's a ledge. It's literally only enough for Bite and then for her to like lay down on. She can't even stand up all the way in the cave. And it's pitch black, but luckily Bite has a light on his little thing so he can turn it on and she can see and stuff. And she's just getting irritated and sad and like frustrated and crying. And it gets to a point where Bite is like, are you well? Have you started your period? Ew. And so then she like, this is so gross. And I hate that I'm saying this to you right now. So she like puts her fingers in there to check. And then she's like, oh, great. Now I'm on my period in the fucking ocean and I don't have a tampon and I'm going to have blood in my wetsuit. Ew. She has no other clothing. She only has her wetsuit. Like, she has nothing to like stop anything. And so then she like goes to put her hand in the water to like rinse it off. And Bite says, no, sharks or other enemies or whatever, they'll sense your blood and they'll come in here and attack you, and like Arges isn't here to protect you. And it's just like super weird and super gross, and we never really get any type of resolution to that situation or acknowledgement about like, oh, well, what happens next? And so she, so frustrated with life and everything going on, she's like, Bite, how much of their language do you have logged? He has 72% of the language. She's like, make me the fucking chip. He says, no, it's only 72%. Like, there's very important cultural things or other stuff that like you won't be able to understand. I have to finish doing the chip entirely. I have to have it 100% logged before I make you a chip. She says, I don't care. I need to understand what he's saying to me. Because at this point in their travels and stuff, he would talk to Bite. Like Bite and Arges were talking back and forth to each other, and she just felt like she was left out. That's the other reason she was crying and freaking out earlier, because she was so frustrated that these people are having conversations in front of her and she doesn't know what's happening. And so she's like, Bite, make me the effing chip. He says no, and she pulls out the whole like beta, epsilon, iota, whatever the hell. She's like, you gotta give me everything. Like, you have to do this, and like directs it. So he does. She pops the chip on her head, goes through the whole agonizing pain thing, horrifically horrible pain. In chapter 22, Arges comes back to collect her, and they're off to the next place. Arges just wished he knew of a place that would be safe for her, a place that wasn't directly in the line of his kind while still being nowhere near hers. If you brought her back to that place, that glowing monolith under the sea, he had a feeling he would never get her back. So when he popped his head into the air in the newest cave, larger than the others, he was pleased to see she was ready for him. She didn't even seem to mind that they were underwater anymore, although there had been a few days where she had been less than excited. At least she wasn't yelling this time. She asks him, she's like, hey, can I warm my hands? She's like, I know this is a lot to ask in the ocean, but I have been freezing cold for weeks now. Like, can you take me somewhere where I can be warm? He, understanding this and trying to be respectful of it, he says, okay. Has her get on him. Usually he would hold Myra against his chest and drag her through the waters, but this time she turned to face him. What? Turned to face him as she had in the beginning. When she slipped her toes against the fins on his hips, he had to grit his teeth against the sudden spike of pleasure. You have no idea what that touch does to me, he murmured, his hands flexing against her. It is a private touch, and you give it so freely. I can count on one hand the amount of people daring enough to touch those fins, let alone with such confidence and ease. And then she doesn't tell him that she has the chip. Like, she doesn't reveal that she can understand him at all. And so he's saying all of this to her, and she's just like locking this away in her brain and like not admitting to anything, which is so weird to me. I don't understand what was the point of like keeping it a secret. He takes her to these like vent things where there's the hot air from the vents. She's enjoying it. It's so great. And he is just talking to her this whole time, just yapping away. When I first saw you, I was certain you were monstrous. Your people are so different from my own kind, with your two tails and your strange white eyes. There was nothing I thought I could find tempting about you. But then every day that you have been with me, I have found something new to admire. The graceful way you sway your hips, the way your eyelids widen and then droop halfway closed when I do something you like. I wish to touch all of you, to find every part of your body that makes you gasp or hiss. I want to know the sounds that come out of your mouth when I pleasure you. When you realize that the ocean itself would guide me into you and set the pace that neither of us could deny. My people believe that lovemaking is the purpose of the sea. What are you talking about? And then he drew her scent deep into his lungs, tainted only slightly by the sulfur of the vents, but he could still taste that sweet scent of her again. I can smell how excited you are. Oh my God. I draw that scent into my gills and tuck it underneath my scales for times when I am not by your side. I grow weary of seeking release in my hand. What is this? What just happened? Again, that scent bloomed far stronger than he had ever scented it before. He knew it was only because she was warm, finally, when she had been so cold for such a long time. And yet, oh, he enjoyed pretending that scent was for him. What is happening? This is so crazy. And so in chapter 23, Myra's perspective, she's like, oh, I did not expect it to go this way. I had no idea he was talking all this mess this whole time. Oh my God. So this like completely changes the way that she views him and the way that she kind of like goes about situations and stuff with him, because she's like, oh, he likes me. Oh, he is attracted to me. Oh, this could actually be something, right? Still doesn't tell him that she can understand him, though, which I don't understand why. But she's like, they shouldn't be interested in each other. It shouldn't even be possible that they were interested in each other. They were too different, barely fit together. They were puzzle pieces from two separate boxes, and no matter how hard they tried to jam themselves together, it wouldn't work. He could breathe underwater, and her, Myra, needed air. Nothing they ever did would fix that. They would never be able to do anything other than, they would never be able to be anything other than two people who wished they could be together, and that would break them eventually. And then they get into a fight when they go back to the caves. She makes a comment, and I don't understand the comment. They go back to, after this whole like little vent thingy-majiggy, he like, I keep wanting to say fly. He swims them back to the cave. And she says, what if I hadn't found the way back into the caves, Arges? When were you not in the caves? What do you mean? You gotta find your way into the caves. I don't understand. Anyway, so he gets all pissy, and she's still trying to play dumb, right? Still trying to act like she doesn't know what he's saying. She goes off. She's like, you can't look at me like that. You can't be mad at me. You're the one that kidnapped me. You're the one that kidnapped me, and you're taking me in all these caves and trying to kill me off and doing all this dumb shit. You don't get to be mad at me. And she's like, what the fuck would even make you be angry at me? And so he pops off back. He says, because your people have destroyed the ocean, because you came here so confident that this place belongs to you. You filled our waters with metal and rust. We tried to fight against you, and you shot us with flames and weapons that were so beyond our understanding that we had no way to fight back. You, who are so tempting and so new, forget that you have destroyed so much. So then she says, I have no idea what you're trying to say to me, but clearly you're being rude, and I have nothing more to say to you. And then she says, I can't stay here for much longer. This ocean is killing me. His dark voice rumbled through the cavern. Perhaps this is what the ocean wants. Your death would be reparation for all the deeds your people have wrought. Oh my God. So she's like, I don't care what you're saying. Shut up. And he says, you humans value nothing. I should be asking you about where your tunnels go. I should be forcing you to the ground with a knife to your throat so you will spill the secrets of your castles under the sea so we can infiltrate your kind and destroy them. All of these things are what I was sent for, and I have done none of them. Why? Because you make me weak, Kairos, and I should have killed you a long time ago to prevent that weakness from spreading. Don't react, she told herself. Don't react and reveal that you know exactly what he just said to you. So that was the real reason that he had taken her. Spinning around, she gave him her back as she peeled out of the wetsuit. Whole bunch of dumb stuff. He eventually goes to leave. And in going, he says, but I will learn how I can attack your kind. I will use all your words to my advantage, and I will take down the city once and for all. She makes an assumption. She's like, I can only guess what you're saying, and I'm guessing you want to attack my people, and you brought me here so you could learn about my people to attack us. She's like, well, sucks for you. I don't know anything. I was just a poor orphan child, and I don't know anything about anything. So, like, you picked the worst possible human that you could have kidnapped. Way to go, dumbass. And so she's like, just kill me. She's like, I'm not going to be helpful to you at all. I was never getting out of this alive, so stop toying with your food and just let me die. She hated it. She didn't want to die, but she wanted him to look at her even less. He didn't get to stare. He didn't. Every fiber of her being wanted to hit him, fight him, grab that stupid welder that he'd given her and melt off a couple of those damn scales. Maybe she was just mad because her feelings were less real than they had been only moments before. He'd stolen that rare, wondrous feeling that he'd caused in the hot springs. Now she just felt used, and she was so damned tired of it. There's nothing we can do for each other, Arges, so just end it. Before she could take another breath, the Undine before her was surging out of the water with his claws outstretched for her throat. He goes to attack her, and he's thinking about how much he should just attack her, but he can't because she's just so pretty. And then he says, and so they end up in this really precarious position where he's on top of her, holding her down, and starts getting little horny thoughts, Already he could feel his pressing against the backs of his armored plates, wanting to release and take her. He hadn't taken a woman in ages. He hadn't felt the bite of their claws or the gnashing of their teeth. Mating for his people was not a kind event. The male frequently left the interaction with scars that he would carry with him for the rest of his life. And again, okay, I thought we said the whole mating rituals thing. I thought he said that was the first time he did it was with her. So y'all just be hooking up and not touching gills? I don't think that was a sentence. I don't think that was a sentence I ever thought I would say out loud. Anyway, she starts to like, I don't even know what happens exactly, but long story short, Bite pops out of his little box and he says, Myra, are you good? In robot speak. She says, I'm fine. But he turns on his little scanner thing and scans her, and he's like, you're deficient in all of these vitamins, you know, blah, 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 blah. You're really, really sick. Why didn't you tell us that you're not doing well? She was like, obviously, I'm not doing well. I'm under the freaking water, and I have no sunlight, and I'm not eating enough. Like, you guys already knew all of this. Of course, I'm freaking dying here. So Arges is like pissed off how like delicate she is now, because now he's like, oh my god, I've literally done everything for you. What more could you possibly need? Your body's so stupid, right? And so he's like, I have to let her go. I can't be the reason for her death. The only option was to return to the depths, to Mitera, and beg for her to allow the release of his kairos, even if that meant his honor would be forfeit. Arges found himself willing to do it. I will be back, he murmured, his voice low as he sank beneath the waves. I will save you. And in chapter 25, her and Bite have like a whole conversation about her being sick, about needing to find somewhere safe, and how the Undines, all of the other Undines, are going to find her. It's like a whole thing. She just wants to have a distraction, so she ends up asking him about some of his adventures. And I don't think his projector works finally. Wait, hold on. Wait, how did we get the projector to work? I thought it was broken earlier. It tapped the side of its box and the little projector appeared off the top of it. Would you like to see a glimpse into the world long gone? She would be honored to see what the droid had archived. I thought the projector was broken. What do you mean? So anyway, he like projects onto the wall and he's like showing her these different adventures that he had, and she's getting some rust off of him and cleaning him up, and he's telling her about the history and all of this stuff, and he ends up showing her this father and daughter who were like the original creators of the like underground society stuff, like the original folk, like scientist people who made it, and it was like a father-daughter duo. It's very cute. Bite very obviously has an attachment to the daughter, like he was the daughter's little robot companion or something. And so eventually he gets very sad, like very somber very quickly, and then he goes back into his box to continue watching the projector video by himself. In which case I'm like, wait, he doesn't need to project in his own eyeballs though. He's a fucking robot. What do you mean? What do you mean? How big is this box? How is this? Anyway, so he's like watching videos by himself, and then she's just kind of lonely and she ends up going to sleep. Yeah, Alice is the daughter's name. She went off into the submarine, certain that there was more discoveries for her, and she refused to be anywhere near the people who would so willingly destroy so much. I was supposed to go with her on that day. What happened instead? Her father was already commissioning me to be one of the deep-sea trawlers. He wanted a personal droid to be on the ground floor of the sea so he could direct reports rather than waiting for anyone else. She never came back, and they never found her. Surely she found land somewhere else. It would make sense for someone like her to have found another home, perhaps another group of people who had similar thoughts as her. They never found her, Miss Myra. They found the submarine, though. They returned as expected to the city, empty. The top was torn off and all the equipment was ruined. Torn off? What kind of creature could do that? There were claw marks on the sides of the submarine. Not teeth, Miss Myra. Claws. Oh. Alice Fairweather had been found by the Undines as well, it seemed. Glancing around, Myra could only hope that Alice had found herself in a similar situation. Perhaps there was a history of Undines having human pets, or perhaps Arges wasn't the first Undine to find himself intrigued with the thought of another creature with two tails who didn't have gills to help survive. Pity or intrigue, it didn't matter. Maybe she's survived. Maybe there's hope for us yet, Bite. The little robot had already ducked back into its box. If she listened very carefully, Myra could hear the projector was still going, this time inside of the box, playing memories that Bite wished to watch alone. Setting it down gently on the computer console, she gave the droid a little privacy to mourn who had been so dear. So, like, again, I ask, and so the dad went on the whole, like, we're going to destroy the coral reefs in the ocean to build these towns, and she was like, conservation and ecosystems. She's like, we can't do that. And then she, like, disappears. Okay, crazy. Again, the projector inside of the droid box is really fucking me up right now. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't get that one. So genuinely, I do not understand a lot of the things that are happening right now. Like, this is truly just vibes here. Dude, don't look at it too closely. And so we go into chapter 26. Arges is going back home And he has a house that he shares with his brother, but it's empty. Like, he cannot find his brother anywhere at all, and it's starting to freak him out. And so he goes to talk to Mitera, though, and tell her what's going on. And Mitera says, okay, she'll die then. You better get your answers before that happens. Like, she does not give a crap about his feelings for this little chromo. And so he's trying to defend her, to Mitera, and he's like, she's honorable. Mitera says, there is no honor of their people. Their people are not capable of having honor. It's this like whole thing. And eventually she's like, get out of here. You have a mission. You need to figure it out. If you're pushing back so hard, you need to go and see the ancients. The ancients will show you the future or show you the way or something. I don't freaking know. So he's like, the ancients, Mitera, they only talk to you. They don't talk to plebes like me. She says, I will warn them of you coming. And then he like goes swimming off to who God knows what, to go and visit the ancients, whatever again, the fuck that means. Ends up in this room with these like crazy monster thingies. They like touch him, and then he starts having these visions. And he has 2 separate visions. In the first one, it's his people attacking Beta. And there's like these escape pods. And he's like killing this one dude. And then the next pod he goes to, he finds Myra in that one. And she's like healed and happy. Well, she's not happy. She's being attacked, but she's like healed and still alive. And then the other vision he gets, he's swimming through the kelp. And then here comes Myra, and she's pregnant. What? And she like comes up and embraces him. She's pregnant with his kid. They're having mermaid babies. He comes out of this and he's like, 2. I had 2 visions of the future. How is that possible? And the ancients are like, you can choose to be with Myra, basically. Like, you can choose love, or you can choose your family. It's one of the 2 fates. Like, you were at this crossroads in life. You have to pick one or the other. So those are your 2 fates. He's like, I want both. They said, haha, funny joke, kid. Not gonna happen. You have to pick one. He says, no, I will have both. They said, we've never seen anybody change their fates. Can you guess what happens? Can you guess what happens next? So he goes swimming off. He's like, okay, you guys are dumb. Upset because he would keep them both. He would keep both of these futures because he wanted that future with her, but he also wanted to see her city fall. In chapter 27, Myra was waiting for him in the thing for like a super long time. He eventually gets up in the cave. She says, I got the chip. We got the chip working. I have it. I can understand you now. And he's like completely silent and just staring at her. And so after a while, she's like, I don't know what's going on. This is kind of weird. He moved his fingers along her wetsuit, gliding them up and down her leg before he finally said, I have thought a long time about what I would like you to hear me say first. A part of me wishes there were kinder words that I could say, that I could tell you how rapturous it is to see you swim through my world and to see you love it as much as I do. Or perhaps I would remark on the way your hair looks like blood underneath the water and that stirs some feral part of me. But what I settled on, the first, most important words you must hear from me, are that I am deeply sorry. Which, like, objectively, kind of hot. But also, you said a lot of words before you said, I'm deeply sorry. So it's a little counterintuitive. That was a little, you probably should have opened with that and then had the explanation for, like, saying I'm sorry first. But that's fine. It's fine. Okay. There's a bunch more of them, like, touching each other and being all turned on and stuff. And then eventually, he's like, hey, I have something. I found somewhere for us to go. Gets her all bundled up. They go swimming off, and they keep going like higher and higher, and it's getting lighter and lighter, like she's more in the sunlight. And so she's like, are you taking me to the surface? No, that is wild, untamed land now. There are many creatures who rule it, and you are not capable of protecting yourself. But I found something here, a rumor that turned out to be true, and I thought that you would find it more comfortable, even if it is very far from me. And it was a dome, a glass dome with panels on each side outstretched like little fins, black structures that looked remarkably similar to the diagrams that she had seen of solar panels from old days. It was connected with a single rod to the ocean floor, but the rest of it hovered in the middle of the water. Through the glass, though the glass was covered in algae, making it difficult to see what was inside, she was certain it was a room. He swam her over to the strange dome and then underneath it. There. I assume you are familiar with this. And it's a moon pool. And so they like open the door and then they're able to like go up into the little bubble thingy majiggy. And they go in there and yeah, it's a whole ass like house. There's like a kitchen, there's like a little closet, there's a whole bunch of clothing and a bedroom and a bathroom and like it's solar panels. So like all the electricity still works in it. but it's obviously very, very like stuffy in there. Like nobody, and it's covered in dust. So nobody had been in there for like a really, really long time. But she has sunlight touching her skin now, and it's like warm and beautiful and dry, and she can actually like stretch her legs and walk around. And this is like the most perfect living situation possible. He's like, will this do? She's like, yeah, this should work. And before she can really say anything else, he swims away, saying, I have a few things to do, our trail to cover up, and I need to find where my brother is. Stay alive, human. And then he was gone before she could even thank him. In chapter 28, he goes back to his like home people land thing, and everybody's looking at him sideways because they can smell the human on him. And even though he's doing a mission as directed by Mitera, everybody is like still looking at him sideways. And he's there for a few days to comfort Mitera that like he hasn't lost his way, and also to try and find his brother. And he still can't find the dude. No idea where homeboy is. He had lied to Myra. There were no rumors about anyone living there, nor had he even been aware of its existence. He'd asked the sea to guide him to where she would be safe, and it had brought him there. Outside of the home, he had found 2 skeletons. One that was certainly one of her people. The bones of her legs had been eerily interesting, and laid out next to her were the bones of one of his own kind, a massive male with a tail nearly twice as long as Arges's. Speaking of his age and power, they had been curled up next to each other, almost as though the sea didn't even dare move their skeletons, together, even in death. But when he looked into the dome, he had seen there was still so much life in there, so much that his kairos could live on and perhaps even thrive on. So he had decided to move their bodies, even if it was against every part of him. He moved them so his Myra would be safe. Perhaps his people could smell the death on his hands as well. So eventually, he goes back to her, but he like doubles back and takes some crazy loop-de-loops in weird ways in case anybody's like following him or trying to like track his scent or whatever. Eventually he gets there. She cleaned up a whole bunch. She's wearing a pretty dress. She's so gorgeous. Everything's cool. He asks her to get in the water to like go with him somewhere. And she's like, oh, are you going to be a gentleman and help me in the water? And he's like, what's a gentleman? And she says, oh, it's like a guy who's kind to women. You humans in your names for everything. He snorted, lowering them to the water and keeping his arms around her so she was close to him at all times. The people of the water call that being a good person. That is all. There is no name for someone who is kind. That is the expectation. So what do you call someone who isn't kind? Dead. He replied without thinking. We call them dead. Which is, I love that so much. That is so funny. And then they go swimming away with the shadow of his aggressive brother trailing them. He drew her away from the dome and toward the open sea. He ends up taking her to like a sandbar thing, and they're like just swimming around, and he's like holding her waist as he swims, so then she feels like she's flying / swimming and going really fast and stuff, and they're all like giggling, having fun. It's just like a little date, I guess. Lots of little flirty banter cuteness. And when he takes her back and she's like, I don't want you to go. I don't like being here alone without you. He's like, you have the box to speak with. You're not alone. And she says, I prefer my time with you, Arges, much more than anyone else I have ever met in my entire life. I want to know everything about you, even if those discoveries come without words. Surely he understood what she was saying. His black eyes searched hers, and when his hands spasmed against her hips, Kairos, I believe there are perhaps some translation difficulties regarding what you just said. She says, nah, you heard me, I want a bone. And so they have this back and forth discussion and about, like what sex is for each of their people. He's talking about how violent it is for his people. And she says, no, it's gentle. And she goes on to like explain, like humans, it's gentle and it's endless touching. They're having a moment, and then there's like a shadow that passes over them, and it's his brother. And so luckily they're in the dome. So then he's like, close the door now. He like dives down to go attack his brother, and then she closes the door for the moon pool. So I guess like the water can't come on. Dude, I don't know. I need a diagram. Honest to God, I really wish I had some pictures. That's all I'm saying. And so in chapter 30, it's Arges confronting his brother, and then one of the other, like the yellow Undine merman thingy-majiggy confronting him. And they all like get into this huge fight, and they end up like his brother like throws him out of the ocean and onto the land. It's like a whole thing. And then there's like a bad storm that happens because the water and the earth like hate each other, and they're beefing about like having their creatures go to the other I don't freaking know, okay? I just know they get in a horrible fight. Everybody gets beat to shit. He gets thrown up on the rocks, so he's like suffocating, and he has to drag himself across this like volcanic rocky surface and ends up like ripping his scales because his skin's like really sensitive. Ends up like messing up a whole bunch of his scales. And yeah, he has to like drag himself back into the water, like literally almost dying. And in chapter 31 from Myra's thing, it has been a long time and she hasn't sensed anybody. She hasn't seen any other lights. She has no idea where he is, and she's like super, super worried about him. She hears a little tap, tap, tap down below. She can't see what it is though, but she's like, it has to be Arges, and if it's not, then it's a risk I'm willing to take. Hits the button, door opens up, it's Arges. Homeboy is like on his last thread of life. Like she's trying to like heal him up and get some med kit from the little robot guy. It like scans him and then can somehow produce a med kit that is like appropriate for mermen. I don't know. Okay, don't look at me like that. I don't know. But she's like, she goes on to heal him and she's like, what did they do to you? And he says, nothing I wouldn't have done to them. She's like, is this because of me? Because you're keeping me here? He's like, yeah, but I would do it again. I would do it every time for you, baby. It's like this whole thing. He's talking about how like he's never been cared for before. Like he's been hurt a bunch, right? He's been bitten by sharks. He's gotten in fights. He's had fins ripped off. Like he's had all this stuff happen, but he has never had anybody be so tender with him. And he's just realizing how much he cares about her and how much she cares about him. And then she's like, yeah, I was so worried about you. And he says, I know. Like pulls her onto his chest and he says, I'll heal. I just need rest. She's like, this can't be comfortable for you. You are literally like, she pulled him out of the water to heal him and stuff. And she's like, I know this isn't comfortable for you, Arges. He says, you'd be surprised, Myra. Having you in my arms is the most comfortable I've ever been. So she passes out. In chapter 32, she wakes up. His lips are all dried because he's been out of the water for so long. Eventually, she's like, oh my God, get in the water, you freak. Pushes him in there. He's all healed up though. Like he's all good to go now. I guess he just heals super quick. I don't know. He calls her kairos, what the frick ever, one more time. And she says, you've called me that for a long time. What does it mean? My translator doesn't know what to do with that one. It's a word with many meanings. For us, it is a fleeting but crucial moment, an ephemeral rightness of time and place, a moment that brings you to where you were supposed to be. He gets into the water and he says, like, you should come with me, Kairos. And then she says, Kairos, that's what you always call me. You've called me that for ages now. Surely you haven't known. He raked his claws through her hair, using them to tug her head back so she had to look at him. I will call you whatever I wish. Kairos. Achromo. Mine. He snarled the last word every inch. Another creature. What? Hold on. He snarled the last word every inch, another creature that should have terrified her, and yet she looked at him with only more lust in her eyes. She wanted him. So you can guess what happens in chapter 33. It's a lot. They're all tangled up together, and I'm not going into any details of it. I forgot. I hate when I do this to myself. I highlight these passages to read you people, and then I actually have to read it, and then I'm upset with myself, okay? So, like, I'm about to read something really, really gross, okay? And I just want you to know I'm doing this for you, you little freak. If you've made it this far, if you're listening, you know what I'm about to read. Don't look at me that way, okay? She felt him come, felt the warm pulse of his seed flooding her inside. So much more than a human, so much that it leaked out of her, rising from where they were joined in thin tendrils that shimmered with 100 colors, like a pale oil slick. It's so gross. I hate that so much. Wow, she whispered. He says, that was acceptable. She says, yeah. And so then, hold on, where is this next part? And so then they end up doing it again. And there was only wonder in the realization she couldn't ever leave him. Not after this. Fuck, she was in love with an Undine. Girl, you get banged one time. And so then, this is crazy to me. So they get back up into the little dome thing. They're up there. He goes to like put her on the floor. God, I'm so like flustered right now by everything I'm about to explain to you. I can't even get my words straight, okay? He like plops her up on the little surface, realizes one of his tendrils, like I'm assuming from his hair, I don't, from where? I don't know. She's got a little thing of his, like a little tendril, stabbed into her neck, into the side of her neck. And he says, "Whoa, don't move. I'm so sorry. I didn't realize." "It's all right." She seemed strangely fine with the thought that something was sticking inside of her. "I felt it when it happened, but I didn't think it was actually in me. Just let me pull it out." "I don't know if you should." Arges moved a little closer, brushing her hand away so he could see what was happening. It appeared that one of his tendrils had speared into her neck, right through the soft flesh. There was a strange goo around it, one that he had never seen come out of a tendril. He didn't know what his body was doing. This wasn't natural in the slightest. He had mated before. His body had never reacted like this, and certainly never without his permission to do so. And so, Bite, hearing this, opens up, scans it to see what happened. What had happened? What had happened? His body, like, adjusted, I guess, knew inherently that he was banging a human. And so the little tendril thing stuck into her neck to, like, breathe for her. It was giving her extra oxygen. So in the future, if they're just like floating around, and then the hole is like there, it's just like it's like a little fin, like, or a little gill almost now, where his little tendril can just insert itself whenever they're near each other and like pump oxygen into her. So she doesn't need the little rebreather mask thing anymore. They can just like, you can just pop a little tube in her and breathe for her. And so my biggest issue with this whole thing, girl, you got stabbed in the neck and you didn't tap out. You didn't say there's no concern. You got stabbed in the fucking neck and you didn't stop? What do you mean? What do you mean? And so obviously the first thing I think of is like, oh yeah, we can bang next time and not have to use the little mask thing. Like we can actually make out next time that we are like doing spicy stuff. And so he's a little freaked out because he's like, oh, I didn't know that was a thing. And Bite is like, yeah, your bodies just like adapt to each other. I don't know. It's a thing. He, in this moment, I guess like realizing that they could be together now, or that like his body adapts to hers, or like whatever, and they could actually make this work. He's like, I'm going to abandon my people. That was so good. I'm going to abandon my people. So he dips out before she can say anything, before she can argue it. He's like, I have to go and tell his mer people to fuck off, because he's got some good up in a dome up at the top of the ocean. Right? Okay, so he does this. He goes back down to the little coral thing where these people live, rolls up into town. Everybody's looking at him sideways. He knows there is some fuckery afoot, right? Goes up to Mitera, says this to her. Mitera says, no, my boy, she has poisoned you. This witch has poisoned you. You are not my son. This cannot be happening. They like throw a net over him. They attach him to some anchors. They like basically put this man up in prison so he can be like detoxified from this poisonous woman. And then they're going to go and send one of the Undines to go and kill Myra. And so he is like, hey, can it be the yellow one? The idea is like he's the most sensible, understanding one. And so Arges knows that he will like spare her life. Like he won't actually kill her like his brother would, or any of these other people. Like he knows that he'll do the right thing, right? Sends him off. Dude's in prison. We press on, right? Crazy. And so the yellow-finned one, he says, I will show her swift mercy, Arges. It wasn't enough for him to feel any sense of reassurance, but he could only pray to the ancients that they sent Yellow Guy to her with kindness. Otherwise, he had already lost the best gift the sea had ever given him. He had failed his people. He had failed his mate. This rotting future reeked of despair, and he had no idea how to fix it. She's hanging out at the little dome thing. She's picking with the little gill, right? I was gonna say fin. Gilf was not the word. What's happening to me? So she's like messing with it or whatever. And she's talking to Bite. Bite reveals that this dome used to be Alice's. Alice fell in love with an Undine. She built this place to be with him. That was the skeletons that Arges found, right, beforehand. Whatever. So the little robot tells her about all of this stuff. This was her home. It was built for her by her father after she supposedly disappeared. My programming initiative was to tell everyone that she had died, but we were not programmed to lie well. So I was sent into the ocean because I couldn't keep the secret about him about the Undine. Another click and a new image appeared, floating like he was just outside of the window. So right now he's like projecting the other Undine onto the wall. Okay, cool. We get a little bit more history about them loving each other, and it's very cute. And she's also realizing it is possible. If Alice and this guy did it and they lived, for so long, she's like, I could be with Arges. This is crazy. And so she says to him as much to bite. She's like, so you think I should stay? I think he loves you very much, and I can see you love him. Leaving would only send you back to the city where you already said you weren't very happy. Why not take a risk on adventure while you're here? I suppose you're right, but why do I have to give up my people to be with him? What makes you think he isn't giving up everything to stay with you? Now take this. You're going to need it. And the little drawer on the side of Bite pops open, and she's like, why? Because it seems like the Undines have already made their choice in the matter, and I don't think the Undine beside you is all that friendly, at least not yet. And so she turns, and it's the yellow one. He like appears next to her, and before he can really react to her, she lunges at him and like slams the little translation chip onto the side of his head so he can understand her, right? So now he's like English and stuff. And so he starts to freak out in pain. And when he goes to attack her, she starts yelling back at him and like saying, stop. So he does. And he says, what? Did you just talk? All of us can talk. I just made it so you can understand me. The device is a little painful. I'm sorry for that. But now you can understand my language. We can talk. I have never wanted to talk to an Acromo. Really? I've always wanted to talk to an Undine. Your people have fascinated me since I was little. So when I got the chance to talk to Arges, it was like I had been given the best gift. I could ask all the questions I wanted and see the world through his eyes. You live in a beautiful place. One that your people have destroyed. And so then he's like, okay, come with me. I'm taking you home. She's like, what? You're not going to kill me? He says, no, I'm taking you back to the humans. Okay. He doesn't let her grab anything, or I don't even know if he really let her put on a wetsuit or anything. Definitely didn't grab Bite. And he just grabbed her rebreather. I think she might have gotten dressed. Anyway, takes her all the way to the city, kind of waits for her. And he's like, okay, go get in the city. She's like, I can't get into it from here. He says, that's a you problem, figure it out. She starts like banging on the walls and stuff, and her rebreather stops working. And so she's like starting to not be able to breathe. And she tells him as much, and he says, that's not my problem, figure it out. And just like starts to swim away. The chapter ends. There was nothing she could do now except stay alive. Maybe if she was lucky, her own people could get her inside. So she swam harder than she ever had before, with numb fingers and toes that she was afraid she would lose. And then she attached herself to the glass, holding on for dear life as she pounded on it again and again, hitting the glass with all her rage, fear, and sadness that life would never be the same again. Not without him. In chapter 30, I'm like slowly sinking in my chair if you're watching. You can tell it's getting later and later because I'm just sinking slowly. And so in chapter 36, it has been weeks that he has been tied to the ocean freaking floor and slowly losing his mind. And nobody talks to him. Nobody visits him. They like only bring him food when Mitera happens to remember. It's like a really crappy situation. But Yellow Guy approaches him again weeks later, which a lot of the book doesn't make sense. And I know I keep saying that, but I keep having to remind myself of that. Because I'm like, I start questioning, especially the second time through when I'm telling you about it. I'm like, wait a second, huh? And I keep doing that. So I just have to say it out loud to you of like, yeah, I don't know. Okay. I don't know. Yellow dude swims up to Arges and he says, hey, I know you're awake. Arges says, how badly did she writhe when you killed her? Pound sand. You know I didn't hurt the girl. You didn't want me to. So what did you do? I brought her back to her home. She said that there was some issues with the thing that let her breathe, but that was as far as I let her get. I swam off before someone could see me. The last thing we need is 2 warriors missing an arm. You let her drown? I didn't let her die. I waited to make sure they got her back into the city. I thought maybe she would reveal a secret way in, but she fought for a bit, pounding on the glass, and then they pulled her back into the building with one of those metal arms. They woke her up when she was inside, and then I left. She was still alive. His lights flickered back on, the slightest bloom of hope in his chest. If she was there, then he could get to her. He could find her, because that was what he did best. He stalked her people for years. All it would take would be him getting free of, like, this whole situation. Arges, the yellow one, broke into his thoughts. You can't go and get her. That made him turn his head. Finally, he glared at his brother. What do you mean I cannot get her? The moment I get out of these bindings, I will find her and I will save her. Why are you so fixated on this creature? It has been weeks since you saw her, weeks since you have been free of the effects of her poison. It should have worn off by now. And Arges says, you talked with her. I talked with her. She is as fearsome as I always thought your mate would be. She attacked me first to put the translation device behind my ear. The pain was immense, and I was certain she had done something to permanently damage me. But when she spoke, I realized she merely wanted to share her knowledge. She spoke to me like I wasn't just some animal to her. She clearly sees us for who and what we are. It's confusing. I have not been able to stop thinking about it. Did you return to the city and listen to them? I did not return to the city they call Beta. It was not a denial of returning, just not to the same city that he had been in before. A sense of horror filled his chest. And so he goes on to explain how he visited all of the other cities. We get some more detail about all of them. I'm pretty sure, like, in the other books, it's the Undines and people from these various cities. Like, I think this is just some, like, laying foundation of, like, world building stuff for the other books. And he's like, yeah, it's weird to think of them as people. He confirms that he's been hidden, and Yellow Dude has not told anybody about the translation chip. Like, he has not told anybody about it, its existence, or that he knows anything, and neither has Arges. So nobody else knows that they understand the humans now, right? And so then the yellow guy starts to yell, and he says, Arges has returned to us. Our warrior is back. And Arges is going to lie to get out of these bindings so he can go and get his girl, right? They agree, he and the yellow one. They don't want to attack the humans anymore now that they know that they're people. And the other thing, too, about the other cities is, like, Beta is all of the workers. Alpha is where all, like, the rich people live that are a bunch of douchebags. And so they're like, if we're going to attack anybody, the people who cause the real problems are at Alpha. But they're going to plan this attack. They're going to pretend to lead this attack so that he can go and save his girl, right? Okay, cool. They free him. Everything's great. And immediately he's like, let's go. We're going to Beta. In chapter 37, we cut to Myra's perspective. Turns out those people, those humans, were not excited to see her back because turns out the cameras were working and they found her being taken by Arges. Not just her being taken by Arges, but it's like they found the videos of the other thing when he, like, saved her from the elevator. Like, they were finally able to figure out that footage and see what happened. And then she keeps denying that Arges took her. She's like, yeah, I just floated away and I managed to survive. Obviously, they saw that Arges is the one that took her. And so they're like, why are you lying? Why are you defending an Undine? This is really weird. And they have this guy who she thought was from Alpha. He's actually from, like, the prison colony called Tau that is, like, out in the middle of the ocean that she didn't realize existed. And he's from there. And he's hired help almost by Alpha to torture her and get this information out of her. And so he has just been, like, very brutally in this chapter abusing her and trying to get information out of her. And she refuses to give any information. But, like, he talks about how he's been torturing her and, like, dropping her blood into the waters to try and attract the Undine's attention so that he would appear, so that they could, like, attack Arges. And they've been doing it for weeks, like putting her blood into the water, and it never worked before. But this time when he does it, they look up and Arges is there. And so then we go into this whole thing, and, like, we'll talk about it later. I'm going to talk about it now because I'm, like, thinking about it more. So they have been dropping the blood in the water for weeks, right? Arges later, he will say, yeah, I knew you were alive. I heard, I smelt the blood in your fear, and it drove me crazy for weeks. It was just torture. And so then I was like, wait a second. So you knew she was alive. Why did you ask your brother how he killed her if you knew she was alive? If you could scent her blood on the water? What do you mean? Get your story straight, please. Anyway, so he's there. The guy is, like, making threats to Arges through the glass and then stabs Myra in the stomach and then pushes her out into the ocean so she can, like, die in his arms or something. And so then Arges, does he go inside the building? Oh, he does go inside. Yeah. So then, I'm not even reading anymore. I'm just going to put my iPad down. And so he, like, throws Myra out into the ocean somehow. Arges grabs her. She's still, like, bleeding pretty profusely and stuff. And he's like, it'll be okay. You have to stay alive. Throws her into the arms of this other Undine and grabs one of her tendril things, puts it into the woman's... I'll come back to it. Gets her little tendril, puts it in her neck so she can breathe since she doesn't have the rebreather on, right? Like, they were... whatever. Now she has this lady's tube in her neck so she can breathe. And then the lady is gonna take her back to the dome to keep her safe and go and like take her to bite so she can have a med kit and get all healed up and stuff, right? That's the game plan. So they go running off. Arges is now trying to attack Beta along with all of these other people, right? When he turns to go and try and attack the man, he's like going through the hall. Like he somehow gets inside of Beta and he's like going through the hallways, like dragging his little self through, big old self through there, trying to find this man and chase him down. Dude ends up in one of the escape pods, launches himself into the ocean. Arges somehow gets out of the ocean, goes and chases the man's escape pod, breaks the glass, freaking rips the dude in half, like literally, and then goes rushing back to his city to go and do some other stuff or like, I don't know and I don't care and I'm not reading it anymore. It's just some like violent, graphic, crazy stuff, right? So what I was saying earlier about the little tube in the neck to breathe, I said the word tentacle. And I know you're wondering, and I didn't say it earlier. I didn't talk about the whole private area situation. There are, you may be disappointed, no tentacles. There are no tentacles in this book. The unique thing, though, about this one is he's got two. He's got two of them. Obviously a little different, but not a tentacle situation. Yeah. So this, in chapter 38, we're going back because I have this highlighted. He had known they were hurting her. Despite what the man had said, he could smell her blood for miles. He knew exactly what they were doing to her and how long she suffered, but he had not been able to help her. My guy, literally in the chapter right before that, you were talking about how you thought your brother killed her. So, like, again, get the fucking story straight. I feel like that shouldn't have been that hard. Like, just a tiny bit of editing, that wouldn't have happened. In chapter 39, we're back in Myra's perspective. She survived, guys. Don't you worry. I know you were. And she keeps being visited by other Undines. Thus far, she had stopped herself from asking where Arges was. The yellow Undine had told her that his people had kept him trapped. At least that's how she thought he meant it. He said that Arges wasn't coming for her, and she thought it was because someone wasn't letting him return to her side. The longer it took for him to get here, the longer she wondered if he just didn't want to see her. She feared he considered her unworthy, or maybe he'd gotten what he wanted out of her. Information, sex, and then he thought better of it. Maybe she'd been so bad at having sex with him that he had decided it wasn't worth it to keep her around. She didn't know. Well, okay, it has been weeks. I'll just read it to you. And so then Arges finally appears because she's out swimming. She like puts her little fins on and she's out swimming or something. And then he like wraps his arms around her and she starts flailing in his arms and trying to attack him. And she's like, "Where have you been?" He says, "I've been here, but there's been much for me to fix." Fix? I don't know what you're trying to do here, Arges, but you haven't come to see me since I've been injured. I've been here, just not while you were awake. I have missed you. So why? None of it makes any sense. He's like, "Oh, did you not miss me?" She's like, "I'm not having this conversation with you. You freaking abandoned me." A whole bunch of like drama and stupid stuff. She's like, "You weren't here. You handed me off when I was clearly dying. You didn't even care. You stayed there and you didn't even come here. And I thought..." And then he kisses her and he's like, "I had to make sure that we were safe. I had to know for certain that everything was where it was supposed to be and that my people and yours do not play nicely. I had to tell some rather elaborate lies to make sure that I could even get out of those bindings to save you. My people were not happy I saved you. Some of them wanted to kill you after I had worked so hard to save you. So I had to stay. I had to argue for your life, for our life. I did not want to return to you until I knew you were safe, until I knew we could love each other without anyone interfering." Love? He'd indirectly said that he loved her, but that wasn't the same. That wasn't what she wanted to hear. He asks, "Did you question my affection while I was gone?" "Every day." Really? The way I said that was so funny. "Every second," she said, her voice a little choked. "I could have died. I would have if homegirl hadn't breathed for me, or if we didn't have the med kit. That man tried to kill me and all you did was hand me off and disappear for weeks. I went back to kill him, Myra. I followed him through the entire city and I chased him to the escape pod, blah, 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 blah." She's like, "Oh my God." She gets all turned on by him saying all of this. And then he says, "Woman, you shouldn't react like that when I tell you I murdered someone for you." Because he can sense her arousal or smell it or whatever. But that is so funny though. "Shouldn't react like that when I tell you I murdered someone for you." Girl, me too. It's like a whole back and forth thing. They make up. They bang. Everything's great. We go into chapter 40. It's the last chapter of the book. I think it's literally just a lot more banging. They say they love each other. You are a gift from the sea, Myra. A rare pearl I am so lucky to have found. I do love you, you know, more than anything else in the world. You hold my soul in your chest. Wherever you go, I will never be far from you. Her hair billowed around them, red tangling around the electric blue of his body. I love you, she whispered, pressing a kiss to his gills. No matter how different we are or where we came from, you are mine. You are mine, Arges, and I am yours. And the book ends, and it goes into the epilogue that I don't care about. I don't read epilogues. You should know this by now. So that was the merman smut. How do we feel, everybody? What do we think of it? Did you like it? What a great way to celebrate Mermaid. Oh, it was okay. Like I said, the vibes, I guess, more than anything. I think it was like not very well written, admittedly, right? Like there's some plot holes. The sentences were really, really choppy and short and just like very elementary, which sounds so pretentious to say. I understand that, but still, it was just like not the best. It's very clear like the story mapping and stuff like wasn't checked or talked through very well, maybe, or something. I don't know. But in general, it's an interesting concept. I think it was pretty fleshed out or well thought of like the cultural differences of like the mer people and some of the lore and stuff there. So that's pretty interesting. Like there was definitely some thought put behind it. It was just like the execution. They just needed a little bit more assistance, like a tiny bit more help with things. And this would have been like spectacular, I think. It is what it is though. It was interesting. It was something different. I've learned a lot about myself reading all these crazy smutty books lately. I'm never beating the furry allegations, but I don't think I can read these about not mammals. I need like humanoid, much more human-y things, I think. I don't know, man. That bug one that we just did, and then this merman one, I'm like, nah, man. I don't think I could do scales, and I don't think I could do chirping and insectoid legs and tails and all this other stuff. I'm like, I don't think so. I gotta draw the line somewhere. And turns out it's at mammals. Oh, whatever. Who cares? This is so stupid. The things I say out loud on the internet is wild. Okay, I think that's all I have to say. I have no idea what book I'm going to do next week, honestly. I have to put up the poll. Like if you're watching this, I probably put up the poll by now, or I will this evening that you're watching. I don't know. I'll put it up eventually. I don't know what the heck I'm going to put on there, though. I don't know what I'm in the mood for. I need to read something dark, I think, though. I haven't read like a really dark, bad book in a while. I feel like I got to balance out the scales, right? Scales? Mermaid? No? Okay. Yeah, I got to do something, though. I'll figure it out, obviously. You'll figure it out with me. So make sure you vote in the poll. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. You know the deal. My videos are on Spotify. Link in the description box below if that's easier for you. Go listen over there. Give me a rating. Helps a lot, I think. I don't know. And I think next week I'm posting one of my casual classics, so you get to look forward to that. I haven't decided if I'm doing the Bell Jar or Emma by Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath or Emma by Jane Austen yet. I'm kind of torn on which one I want to talk about. So I got to figure that out this weekend. And then, yeah, I don't think there's anything else. Thank you guys so much again. So earlier this week I posted my 10K celebration and I'm already up to like 12,000 subscribers. Y'all are crazy. This channel's like popping off right now. And it's all because of that Minotaur smut. Y'all little freakies are just crazy for this stuff, which I'm so happy about because I am too. I'm not going to lie. I'm having such a fun time. I'm glad you guys are too with me. This is just so cool. And I'm just so grateful and appreciative. And yeah, I hope you're having a good time too. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.